forward to getting back on the field. The practice field tonight, obviously had the week off, got recharged, and looking forward to playing on Saturday against a tough opponent. Coach Rhule's done a great job, with the football team there, 5-1. Impressive team on tape, giving up 11 points a game on defense. A veteran outfit. And offensively, big offensive line, big tight ends, play a lot of guys, really skilled receivers, a lot of good running backs, and a mega talented young quarterback. So, but as always, it's more about us and what we do. You can control what we can control. Having a great day today, preparation. It's stacking good days, and it's an important game because it's the next game. That's why it's an important game. It's this game. And we're looking forward to it. Questions?
Zach, on your left and Miz.
They have, I think, one of the most disruptive defenses you've seen to this point, certainly one of the more disruptive, and they're leading the conference in sacks, tackles for loss. Just when you look at that side of the ball, what are they doing that is just kind of creating problems for opponents?
Well, they got good players. They're very well coached. They play really hard. They're very multiple in their scheme. They've got guys that can affect the passer, a couple big guys inside, 315-plus type guys. They play a lot of people, and they do everything they can to keep you off balance. They also deflect a lot of passes. They have 7 interceptions, giving up about 85 yards rushing a game, I think.
Yeah, you have a core group of JMU transfers, obviously, that dealt with success last year, 10-0 start, and kind of the national spotlight at times. Has that helped, having that kind of group that's been through this before? And did you learn anything from that experience as well, kind of navigating that?
Yeah, well, those guys and a lot of the other new guys we brought in, and the guys that decide to remain the right kind of guys, and the kind of the mindset and culture that we've been able to create here. And those guys certainly have facilitated the change early on. And, dealing with success is a lot better than dealing with failure. But you got to stay humble and hungry and maintain your edge. And, yeah, I think you're always learning. And, did I learn? Yeah. And because, it's like Mike Krzyzewski said, when he retired, his toughest opponent was human nature. Human nature. Because it's natural to feel good, this and that, things are great. But that's not what this game's all about when it comes to preparation and stepping between the white lines. You've got to have some special characteristics to be able to deal with success and not be affected by it in a negative manner.
Todd in front and set.
Curt, yards after catch have been a big part of your passing attack this year. You got 4 receivers with over 100 yards in that. Can you speak to the importance of that? And also, when you diagram a play, can you try to design that into a play, or is that just something that just happens with the receiver making the play? Yeah.
Well, that whole crew, and we spread the ball around. I think we had over 10 guys touch the ball last week or in the last game. They have great ball skills, and they're strong guys too, which leads to broken tackles. So, that's something that you're just trying to design plays that have answers and can free guys up versus all the different coverages you're going to see potentially. And then it comes down to execution. It's protection, separation, putting the ball where it's got to be, throwing it where it needs to be thrown, and letting the athletic ability and the desire. Sometimes there's a little want-to factor there, too, involved in that. Take over from there.
Seth and Jack.
Yeah, Curt, you mentioned Rhule's talent. Just what have you seen from him on tape? What challenges could he pose for your defense?
Yeah, he's a really talented guy. He's got great arm talent. He plays with a lot of confidence. He's got a really nice supporting cast. They protect him well up front. They've got one receiver, 6'4", 225, and can really go, deep ball type guy. And schematically, the staff does a really nice job of they don't put too much pressure on him. They're balanced. They want to run the football, good play action pass, get them out of pocket, change the launch point. So I think they've done a tremendous job with him.
Jack in front and Zach B.
Hey, Curt, how's Jalen Walker doing after leaving the Northwestern game? And I guess that position as a whole, how do you feel about the depth you have there?
Yeah. Jay Walk is a guy you never count out, and I expect him to be full speed on Saturday. And, we're developing some depth there with Isaiah Jones and the freshman, Hardy. But there are positions we don't have a lot of depth. So, but feel good about that group.
Zach B in front and Bob.
Coach, we know that you're a process-oriented guy. What does that process look like during a bye week? Did you take time to kind of step back, or was it still balls to the wall?
Oh, it's balls to the wall all the time. Because you're getting better or getting worse, never stay the same. So, we practiced 3 times, and we did some prep on this upcoming opponent. And then you're looking at other people across the country, seeing who's doing what well and trying maybe to get a few ideas that may help you down the road. So using that time wisely.
Bob,
Okay.
top left and Jim.
Curt, kind of a big picture question, but when you're rebuilding a culture the way you have here, what are 2 or 3 of the key non-negotiables that you have when it comes to rebuilding something like this?
Well, the first thing you got to do as a leader, you got to change the way people think inside and outside the program. And then you got to have a blueprint and a plan. You got to have high standards for everything you do. High standards, expectations, and accountability, and consistency, day in, day out. How you do something's how you do everything. And you have to be fully committed to being the best you can be. Be a great team guy. Those are non-negotiable. Be early, do your best. Improve as much as you can every single day.
Jim and then Pete.
Coach, I know every game's important, especially from here on out, and the crowds have continually grown. A sellout announced a week and a half before the game. What do you need from this Indiana crowd this week, especially in games like this?
I think it's more about us performing as well as we're capable of performing and give the crowd a reason to really get into the game, which I'm highly confident we will. We have up to this point every time we've gone out, and a lot of confidence in this group. It's an experienced group, high character guys, and we feed off each other.
Pete on your left and Ken.
Yeah, Coach, the quality you're getting in special teams, kicking, punting, how much of an edge does that give you?
Well, your special teams is a third of the game, coaches like to say. But it's roughly 20% of the plays in any football game. But huge momentum swings when you make something really good happen or if something bad happens in a game. So it's highly critical. Grant Kane does a tremendous job with our teams. Our entire staff is involved with special teams. We watch special teams together as a full staff. We make a big emphasis on it.
Ken, top right and Joe.
You've talked a lot about just making sure guys keep their heads on straight and stay on the, at level headed. How do you make sure that continues throughout the week with all the stuff that's going on, the attention that's coming to the program, but then, Fox coming here and doing that kind of stuff? Just how do you make sure everybody keeps their eyes where they need to be?
Well, you got to eliminate the noise and clutter and focus in on what's going to help you prepare so you can be your best on Saturday. And we have enough maturity and good leadership and experience on this football team. I'm confident that we can handle that. But that's my job, too, to make sure if I see an area that's maybe not quite where it needs to be, to push the right buttons and get it to where it needs to be.
Do you remind them daily, or is that just something that you wait for in case something pops up?
Yeah, I send the message to the assistant coaches. They send it to the players. I'll send it to the team. Yeah. But we also don't want to create a self-fulfilling prophecy either. I'm highly confident that our team will prepare the way it needs to prepare for this upcoming game.
Joe, front right and Josh.
Coach, something when you first got here, you said that you're too young to stop learning. Midway through your first year, what would you say is the most valuable piece of information that you've learned up to this point?
I think what I've learned up to this point is that we have unlimited potential. as an institution and football program. And that if you commit daily and do the things you got to do to be successful, that there's no self-imposed limitations on what you can achieve.
Josh on your right, and we'll wrap it for Lisa.
Coach, you have success after bye weeks at James Madison and prior destinations. What goes into that? You said balls to the wall in preparation. Do you feed off of what you did the year before, or is there anything different you're doing this year?
Yeah, I just think we have a way that we do things, and we have a way we do things during bye weeks. And then we have a way that we do things the week after a bye week, and it really doesn't change very much. It's not quite as intense during the bye week, right? But we still have a structured routine. And, you know, when you got good players, you have a better chance to be successful.
Lisa on your right.
So at the first game, they handed out shirts with your name on them, and since then there's been all kinds of other designs that have been going around. What's your reaction to your popularity here around Bloomington, especially with the student body?
You know, I made a couple comments when I first got hired. I was out there on a limb a little bit. You know, I felt like that's what I needed to do. And I think it's more of a reflection on how the team has played and the success that they've had on the field that's gotten people excited, and this is just a byproduct of that.
Yeah, Alvano kicked yesterday. You know, still day to day. I'd expect Tommy to have a chance to play this week. He was all set to play last week and actually ruptured the plantar fascia as he was running onto the field and after the tunnel walk. So, which is a good thing, because when you rupture it, you know, it's very painful. So it just comes, but it kind of alleviates the problem. So Tommy practiced all last week, so I'd assume Tommy has a chance to play. So other than that, I don't know if anyone's special, but I think we're pretty healthy.
What type of challenges does their offense, which has been riding pretty high, present for a defense?
I mean, well, they're leading the Big Ten in passing, and at least they're close, if not the top in rushing. You know, they're top 10 in the country in offense. They're top 10 in the country in defense. They're the only team that hasn't trailed all year. They've scored 80 points in the fourth quarter. So this is probably a top 10 football team we're facing, right? Just. It's one of they started the season unranked, so they're not maybe getting the due that they're supposed to get, right? I mean, other people can lose to a bad team and they'll keep them in the top 10 because whatever they started in the top 10, or you know. But Coach Cignetti's done an amazing job. The quarterback's absolutely fantastic. They got playmakers. They're good on special teams. It's a great team.
Kind of hallmark of the era, right? The transfer portal, NIL era, being able to take, I don't know how many it was, 10, 12 guys from his former school. Is this something we should just get used to in college football from here on out?
Yeah, everyone has to forget the logos and the names and just like, you know, oh, well, this team's always been good, or, you know, whatever. I mean, Vanderbilt backs up a win against Alabama with a win over Kentucky, who's probably the best defense in the SEC, right? Because they've got a dynamic quarterback. I'm sure they have. I won't really watch them, but you know, I mean, I spent Saturday watching college football, and you know, every game's starting to come down to the end. You're really starting to feel the impact of the 2-minute timeout, especially at the halves. People that play the middle eight right, you know, have an advantage. And then your roster, your roster, how healthy you are, but yeah, I mean, you can have a really good team and all of a sudden lose them one year. You know, I think in college football now, if you lose a coach to a better job or a different job, it can decimate your program. It can be a quick fix for another program. So there's a lot of things that are just different, you know, and I think everyone's going to have to just kind of, like you said, just kind of get used to it.
And you could probably lean more on the transfer portal because, I mean, I think there's pretty good NIL support here, but you have chosen, I think, to build it a little bit more systematically, maybe more, you know, slow cook it a little bit. Why is that just your global opinion of why you wanted to do it that way?
Well, I just don't believe in running kids off. You know, we're still associated with a university, right? Like, I don't think that's what Nebraska wants. So, but again, like, if I was coming from another college, it would have been a little different, you know. I just was coming from the NFL, so, you know. But I'm not in any way, you know. I mean, maybe I would do it differently now if I did it later. I mean, we did the portal pretty good this year, I think. You know, Isaiah's been pretty good. Jamal's been good. I mean, we've done the right things. I just the teams that I want to be like, you know, in terms of their records, recruit really well. And I think we can recruit really well. I think recruits are figuring out that, like, they can come here. And so I think our recruiting will get better and better and better. You know, you just have to win. You know, you have to win a little bit, right? And so, and be, you know, you go back to this year, you guys asked me what my goals were. They were to be relevant. You know, this is a relevant game. The next game's a relevant game. The game after that's they're all relevant, you know, based upon what we've done the first 6 games. So, but yeah, I'm just not here to run kids off and get rid of kids. That's not my deal. There's a time and place for that, you know, if a kid's not doing the right things. But I wanted to be their coach.
You mentioned early in the year, I think it was when you got ranked for the first time, that there was that whole hunter versus hunted mentality that your kids would have to get adjusted to. What kind of a sense do you get for the dynamic of that conversation going into this game, and how maybe it's a little bit flipped, if you feel like it's flipped at all?
Yeah, I think coming out of that Illinois game, we learned a lot of very, very valuable lessons. I think we applied those versus Purdue and Rutgers in many ways. I thought we had the right attitude playing in those games. You know, you're watching college football this week, and like every good game comes down to the last possession, like it's an NFL game. And so, you know, hopefully the last 2 weeks have gotten us used to that. You know, this is a game though where we're facing. You know, this is probably I try not to look at the lines and all that, but I'm pretty sure we're probably the underdog, right? So this is our guys' first time for doing that, right? So I much prefer that. You know, I love turning on game day and seeing them all pick the other team. That's good for us, you know. So, you know, it's just kind of who I am and who a lot of our guys are. You know, we're not. You know, we are who we are. So, I think our guys, you know, I think our guys understand at this point, like, this is going to come down to football. We got to practice well, play well. Doesn't matter what music we listen to before the game. Doesn't matter what we wear. Doesn't matter what all of that's fun. We're going to have to block and tackle and, again, make one more play. I mean, you watch the end of Ohio State, Oregon. What a great football game with 2 great teams. And with all the things they did all game, it just came down to like a couple things at the end, right? So just trying to get ourselves a little bit better this week to make one more play.
You said after the Illinois game that wasn't Nebraska defense. Your players echoed the same sentiment. What have you seen out of them now? Just 17 points in the last 2 games. Biggest changes.
Yeah, they played a lot better. I think the biggest thing is, even to go back to Illinois, like it was you know, a couple crucial mistakes in crucial times, and we didn't tackle at the level we wanted to. You know, I mean, that's an outfit that went out there against Purdue this week and scored, whatever, 55, 59 points. I mean, so Altmaier's an excellent quarterback. So globally, I mean, it probably wasn't terrible, but it just, you know, we have a standard for the way we play. We can't, if the other team's better than us and they score, that's fine, but like the way the film looks, the way we hit, the way we contact, the way we get off blocks, the way we communicate should be better. And I thought on that night that was a tense defense that just wasn't quite playing to the level they were capable of. And had we known Tommy was hurt that badly, I think, you know, maybe he doesn't play that first drive, you know. But, you know, Tommy's such a team guy. He went out there and battled, and we adjusted. Sierra's done well since then.
I know at first the excitement was just Javen getting back on the field. How have you seen him do with the short runway he's had, sort of to jump back into taking on more snaps and all that goes with it?
Javen's done great. I mean, I think he played like 13 or 14 snaps. You guys probably know the numbers better than me, but you know, the goal was like 10 to 15 snaps the first game. I think he played 25 or so the second game, roughly. You know, this is a great game for him, you know, to play in, because he's so athletic, freaky athletic, that he can play the run and the pass. And again, this is a really balanced offense that we're facing. You know, the run game is well put together, and the backs are excellent. So hopefully Javen can give us, you know, 30, 35 snaps maybe this game.
After watching a lot of football on Saturday, how unpredictable does the Big Ten look right now? Just the way some of these games played out. I mean, Purdue with the backup quarterback almost beats Illinois, and obviously USC could have beat Penn State. I mean, there's a lot of things that played out that I'm guessing most people couldn't really have predicted.
Yeah, I think though, when you look at when they expanded the Big Ten to 18 teams, and they brought in a team that played for the national championship last year. just think about that all of itself. Oregon, who, you know, Dan's done a great job, but even before him, you know, Mario did a great job. They've been a 2-loss team for the, you know, in that range for the last 5 years, and they've been a great team for a while. Then you bring in a team of that USC that won 11 games 2 years ago, or whatever it was. You had to, you know, you put the travel in. I mean, I talked a lot about the travel, and everyone kind of like, I think like, oh, I got you, Matt. Like the travel, the weather, like that was hard to throw the ball last week against Rutgers. That was 40 to 50 mile an hour gusts, at least is what it said. You know, it was hard. I think you're going to see a lot of unpredictability. It's like the NFL, right? You never know in the NFL who's a good year in college football moving forward is going to be like 8-4, 9-3. It's just what it is. It's why, there's a lot of teams that do really well, but they're not playing who we're playing. It's just a different league, right? And the Big Ten, the SEC they've just evolved, right? And then, so, you look at the statistics on traveling, multiple time zones, what that's doing to teams. I mean, I just think it's all really interesting. It's all about how healthy you are. There's not as many, take the game off games. You have to be ready to play every week, and people are battling. And again, now teams are losing on the last play of the game, right? I mean, Illinois has done a great job. Bret's done a great job. They won 2 games in overtime, right? I mean, it's just kind of what the Big Ten's going to be, I think, moving forward. It's going to be like the NFL.
How do you sense that your team responded after the bye, rejuvenated, and just coming at a good time of the season halfway through to get a week off?
Well, we worked our tails off last week. Now we got better. All right, that's one thing. I got really proud of some of the young guys. Some of our young guys have improved at a high level. So I gave them one day where it was just them. Then we had 2 days where it was the vets too, and one day was a mix of the young guys, and then the last day was purely just the travel squad working versus scouts and the like. So we really worked. But I think, to your point, like mentally, emotionally, right, the competitive stamina of, we face some pretty good teams. Whether people think they are, we face some teams with 4 wins. So we've had to battle every week. We're not like just running away with the game and it's just an easy game. So the guys have had to show competitive stamina and they've had to grind. And I think it came at a good time. I was able to get away. The players were able to get away. Even if get away means they sat in their dorm room and watched anime or whatever it is they watch nowadays. They got to have some time to themselves, and I thought everyone was in a pretty good mood this morning. Everyone looked out. We just practiced. It was excellent. So hopefully it benefits us. Because we got 6 ball games left. We got 3 and then another bye, and this is as big a game as we've ever probably played in terms of the stakes and all the things that get people excited on the road. Ranked team, best offense probably. That we faced, one of the best that we'll see. So, I'm sure our guys are focused.
You mentioned last year, the first 2 games on the road, Minnesota, Colorado, maybe some things took your team a little bit, rattled them a little because of the crowd and the noise. How maybe did you change prep going into this Indiana game where the crowd's probably going to be as loud as it was at Minnesota and Colorado?
Yeah, I hate talking about last year because I'm embarrassed of it, but we were a huddle cadence team, right? And we switched this year to a clap to allow us to be louder on the road. Now we still have 2 false starts at Purdue. We're still not perfect. I mean, we're far from perfect. So you get down there in the goal line, and you're trying to run the power play on 4th and 1, and you're just kind of sitting there like hopefully no one false starts, or hopefully we don't get it. So I just think we were more prepared. We used crowd noise the whole camp. So I think the noise in and of itself is better, or preparation for that is better. And the team just didn't really know us or know, I think when you go on the road, if you have a team that actually really cares about each other, and if you have a team that really wants to see each other be successful and is there for the team, then you have a chance to win on the road. I watched a lot of football. One thing about college football right now, there's a lot of guys out there, and the whole time they're playing for their personal brand. They could do something for the team. They could take a knee. They could step out of bounds. They could end the game. And instead it's all, watching college football is hard now. It's all trash talking and really excessive trash talking. It's you beat a team and you're waving goodbye at them, and Iowa did that to us last year. I mean, there's sometimes rivalries. I get it, but I don't want to see our team do that. I want to see our team walk out and if you watch me, I can shake their team's hand. I shake the players we game plan for. I shake their hand. And yes, I struggled a little bit with that this weekend watching college football. Like every time a guy makes a play, it's like he has to turn and tell the guy he made a play, And trust me, I'm all for a little trash talk, but there's a way to do it in a way that doesn't, disrespect the game and disrespect your opponent. Because truly playing against good teams allows you to show what you can do. Like you can't show what you can do when you play bad teams. You have to play good teams. And so Indiana gives us a chance to show us what we can do. But as much as anything else, I want us to respect the game, and I want us to respect, what it means to be a Nebraska Cornhusker. And I have a lot of respect for Coach Cignetti and his staff and their players, and so I'm hoping we play a certain way.
Hey, you guys showed that jumbo set last week against Rutgers with Liebentritt, Mazuka, and a couple big tight ends. Obviously, you're limited in situations you can use that short yardage, but having success with that, does it start to create some kind of a mentality that, or help you create a mentality that you want to extend to other areas of the run game here over the second half?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, I did like an extensive study of the run game, you know, and, you know, some of the numbers are hurt a little bit by some of the sacks we've taken, you know, and some of the numbers are helped by some of the speed sweeps. I try to take all that out. Like, you know, we just haven't had the explosive runs, if that makes sense. Like you know, there's a lot of 4 and 5 yard runs, which you like, right? Keep you on track, but we haven't had the big runs. You know, that 2-back power set, like that's what I was known for at Temple. Like we were going to run that against you 15 times a game. You're going to have to deal with, you know, I run that play. I get texts from 20 guys like, hey, and we ran it the game before too. We ran it against Purdue on the goal line. We ran it against Rutgers. So, you know, you do it enough, people, you know, we line up and there's 10 people around you, so you're not going to have big hits. But I think the big thing for us as we move forward is just to really, really find some ways to get some long runs. You know what I mean? I like some of the consistency of the runs more than I thought I did. But we got to hit a couple big ones, right? And so we haven't done that. But yes, absolutely, having the fullback, having the tight ends, even just practicing against it. And we practice against it every week. You know, I think it just hardens your team. I mean, it's really, there's not many teams that have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. Indiana does. And because I believe if your defense, all they do is defend the spread all day, every day in practice, when you face a tough team, and make no mistake now, Rutgers, Greg Schiano, Bret, Bielema, those are tough people. And those are tough. We faced 3 straight teams with a defensive coordinator as a head coach. Like, you know, they're going to run the ball and they're going to grind you and you're going to be physical. But if your defense never sees it till game day or with the scout team, it's really hard to be a physical defense, right? So I feel bad for some of these guys, these defensive coordinators. They go play for an offensive head coach who's a play caller, and some guys can do it. And they get fired, and everyone's like, he can't coach. Well, you're not getting hardened, right? You're not getting. If you play in this program, you know, we might not ever be, you know, top 10 in passing, you know, but we're going to run power and we're going to run duo and we're going to run counter, and you're going to see those things in practice. And so when you get to the game, it's never really a shock. And so. But yes, to your point, I think one of our major emphases this, you know, moving forward is just getting a little bit better in the run game. You know, fixing some of those things on special teams. We're making a lot of good plays on special teams, but the catastrophic plays are killing us. And you know, trying to fix 1 or 2 of those things and see if we can be a better team.
There were a couple moments on Saturday in college football where clock management just became a topic of discussion. In one case, or in an early game, a player could have gone down in bounds and ended the game essentially, but scored a touchdown. And then there was the USC game, the clock there. Obviously, at the end of the Ohio State-Oregon game, how do you look at clock management? Do you have a guru that helps you with that? Like, how do you navigate that? And has the philosophy around clock management changed?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say about clock management is just like we study it every week. We study every decision that was made. Sometimes the guys on TV, with all due respect to them, haven't done that. And they'll say, like, what? Like I remember we were playing the Packers, and we were down by 11, and we went down, and on second down, we kicked a field goal before the 2-minute warning, kicked it off, and I'm getting killed by the announcers. Just killed. Like, why would they do that? Meanwhile, the analytics community is like, this is brilliant. Finally, someone did this. Like, we kicked the ball through the end zone. Now with 2:06, they have the ball left. So it's like, you have to be careful what is bad clock management, right? And then you look at actual good clock management. Part of it is, do the coaches make the right decisions? And then do the players make the right decisions? Because like sometimes it's like, hey, we're going to run this play. You know, you got 6 seconds. Hey, get down. We have a timeout. Sometimes the things people don't even recognize, like at the end of the game on third down, Dylan rolled left to try to throw the ball to Jacory on third down. And he wasn't there, and so instead of throwing away, he took a sack. Now, it's a minus 16-yard sack. You don't really want that. But that's us saying, hey, if it's there, throw it. If not, take a knee. So the clock runs. They have to use a timeout. So it's all these little things sometimes that I don't think show up. But, yeah, Sean Patton, I had a guy in Carolina, Taylor Rajak, who was really, really excellent and really helped me learn a lot of, like, things as it relates to the 2-minute warning. And then that process now, you know, we use 2 outside services to help us. And then Sean puts together a tape every week. We show a tape to the guys every Thursday. You know, don't be dumb, and just showing like, hey, mistakes made throughout the week. And then I watch all the decisions people are making, right? And, you know, so sometimes I just say, you have to be careful. Like sometimes people will say like, oh, they should have used their timeouts there. Well, you know, right as the clock's running down the 2-minute warning and you're behind, you can either use your timeouts before the 2-minute warning, or you can wait till the 2-minute warning and use them after. And there's merit for both. I just think, Sam, as long as you have a philosophy of this is why we do this, you know what I'm saying? Like, and sometimes it's as simple as, oh, we can stop these guys, or man, we're struggling to stop these guys right now. Like those are two different things that, like I go back to the Illinois game. Like a lot of people ask me like, why did you call timeouts when they had to punt, but then not run a play? Well, I wasn't going to run a play from the 12. My hope was that the punt return would go into the end zone. We get the ball at the 25-yard line with 30 seconds, and hey, Dylan, let's go, right? But two drives before the ball. So it's all these little things that come into it. I think the best thing you can do is have a philosophy. And I like this stuff. That's why I talk so much about it, because this is, to me, is real football. Like, I like this, but I also think it's what do your players understand? Because in that situation, Dylan takes a sack. It looks ugly, but it's the right thing to do. Against UTEP, he throws the ball in the end zone with 8 seconds left, and we catch it with 1 second, so we would have had time to call timeout if it was inbounds. I think you have to prepare them. But as the season goes on, man, it's like you can't rep every situation every week. And so hopefully your guys have been schooled and taught. We had a bad play last week against Rutgers where we ran out of bounds on 3rd and 22, right? And that's not on that player. That was 100% on me not making the communication of, hey, we call it a certain word, like, hey, stay in bounds. So I think it's real football. That's the great thing about the 2-minute timeout coming to college. The extra timeout adds all these layers of decision making that you have to make, right? It used to be really simple. Now it's way harder, in my opinion, which is good. And I could talk. I like reading about it. There's podcasts I listen to about it. It's pretty cool stuff.
Is Dylan sort of built that way like you? Have you found that he's ahead of the curve and sort of diving in deep into the clock management stuff and all those?
Yeah, Dylan dives into everything, bro. Dylan woke me up in my office this morning. He came in and banged, and I woke up that's him. Like, he's here first thing in the morning. He's texting me. He's going away this week, and he's on the plane. He's like, hey, can you watch UCLA? He's watching the tape on the plane. Can you watch UCLA play 24? Like, he's just a whole other level. But at the end of the day, it just still comes down to being in the moment, and that's the hardest thing for all of us, right? Like, how often are you guys like watching a TV show but also have your phone out? Like, I have it all the time. It's a bad habit. Like, being in the moment, and so in the moment, anticipating it and then making the right decision. That's the secret sauce, and it's the difference between winning and losing, especially for a ball club like us. Everything's going to be close.
Fall asleep in your office?
Yeah, I went home and then couldn't sleep, so came back early. And the Garrett McGuires, the Corey, they come in at 4:30 and work out. I come in at 4:30 and watch film and just fell asleep. That's all.
Hey, can you speak to follow up on that question about Dylan, about the areas of what you've seen as far as him with his growth in areas away from what we see in 60 minutes of him playing?
You're saying, I'm sorry.
In what ways have you seen him grow off the field around the team?
Oh, I think his leadership and just the touch points he does in terms of getting around the guys. I think the confidence he has brought to guys, the belief, I think, just something as simple as like Jacory's a young player, we're asking to play 3 different positions, and just him constantly getting with him and talking to him. I think those things are really good areas that he's been excellent at and improved at. I think he's done a great job. When you're that talented and you're having that much success, there's always going to be a ton of voices, saying, hey, you should do this, you should do that. And he's just very focused on, like, this is what I'm being asked to do here. I've been really, really pleased with all those things. And I think he's really good about, every week he tries to find 3 things to improve upon. And I always tell him, like, after every game, write down how it felt while you were playing, and then write down after you watch tape what you saw. Because sometimes those are 2 different things, right? Like, sometimes we see ghosts out there in terms of, man, they're doing this, and then you watch the tape and build off of that journal. And I think he's so self-aware, and he's not afraid to be like, a lot of guys, man, they do not seek correction, and he wants to get corrected. He wants to be better, and it's a lot of fun coaching guys like that.
Tommy Hill plays this week. How does that impact the rest of the cornerback position? Most importantly, C.R. Wright, given the way he's played the last few weeks.
Well, I mean, I think you're going to need every corner you got versus this outfit. I mean, they got great wideouts, and they've got great run after catch guys. They can go get the fade. They can. I mean, really, this quarterback is playing as well as any quarterback in the Big Ten when you watch him, if not the best. I mean, he sees the field. He knows what you're in. He gets to the right spot. So we'll probably need all those guys. Tony has different packages, but just even in the rotation, right? I mean, they've scored 80 points in the fourth quarter. That's just fantastic. I mean, 80 points in the fourth quarter alone. I think it's like 80-17. They haven't given up a first quarter point, I don't believe. So, excellent defense with tremendous edge rushers and dynamic offense. So, we'll probably need Sierra a lot. We'll need Tommy if he can go. Again, Tommy's still, I feel good about it, but it's not a done deal. Like, he's got to get through the whole week of practice. And last couple of weeks, I've told you I thought he was going to go. And just, for a corner, that's a tough injury now. To be, it's one thing to be a D lineman and play, 3/4 speed. It's another to be a corner.
Did you award any new black shirts over the bye week?
Yeah. We put Sierra in black because he's a starting corner right now. And the defensive guys came to me. They asked for Buschini to be in black. So we put Buschini in black.
Why did the defensive players want that? I assume they told you. Why did they want Buschini?
I think just, I think the way he's impacting the game defensively, right? I know I had talked to Jason Peter a couple of weeks ago and asked him how that worked, and he said, at the bowl game, those guys would always get it. And then I asked someone else, and they said, Coach Rhule, Coach Callahan did it once with a punter in the middle of the season. So I was kind of like, all right, well, I'll just stick with tradition. But I just think it's when the players, when Marquise Buford texted me at home, is like, Coach, we need Buschini in black. I thought that was a tremendous mess, whether it was the tackles at Purdue, or the game-saving tackles on the field goals, or just the punts he made last week. To get hit like that and come out there and not. Some guys get hurt and they come out and they finish the game. Responsibility. I'm serious. Some of the coaches, I take a lot of responsibility for some of the things, special teams wise. Just early in the year, trying to get some young kids, and just not putting enough of the guys who I know can make plays on the special teams, and whereas Ed's one of those guys, So just kind of reevaluating that and seeing, hey, who can go out there and make plays for us, and getting some other players on the team, and then just kind of seeing where we had never shown. We've never really been in this situation before. We've never had like blocks in the past, and so here we are, and we've got 5 block kicks this year. That's like heartbreaking, and so again, having a chance to go back and just study what we're doing, right? But to me, it's the same as in the run game. So my foot's cramping up, so forgive me. It's the same as the run game.
As we said after the
what
game,
are we doing well?
Winning on the
What
road
are we
is
not
not
doing
easy,
well
and
that we should just get rid of.
something you take a lot of
fix.
pride
And
in.
then,
And I got to give our guys a
who
lot
are the
of
guys who
credit.
could make a play that
Things
we're
we
not
talked
using, and just
about
kind of really
having
taking a
to
deep
do,
dive at
especially
that.
going on the road, is about the road focus.
You hope that while we're in
your
year
ability to handle
3
the
and year
environment.
4 and year
And I'm not
5,
saying that
you have things
crowd and
established.
things like that. Just sometimes
in year
a
2,
new
you're still sort of
environment,
like
locker rooms,
trying to figure out who can do
2-hour
what.
delay as you fly
I know it
out,
probably sounds superficial here, but
different
just
things like
guys
that.
go fast, they go
Being able to
quickly, they
handle
get
that,
better.
have the maturity to still come out,
So
play,
yeah, we're kind of,
start
I would
fast,
expect
play
us to play
fast,
way
and do a
better on
lot of those
special teams
things. And
moving forward.
as you
I'm
look
excited
back
for
at
it.
it,
And,
that's what we did.
had I thrown that fake
We're
punt on the
seeing
first
growth
play, maybe that
in
game
a
would
lot
have
of
been
areas.
different,
I
right?
think
We knew it was there.
Really starting to envision
So
what
maybe
this
it's a lesson for me
complementary
to be a
ball
little
looks
bit
like
more.
that too often you hear about, but it really was. And I thought up front, as you go back and look at it, was really where we kind of I think established a lot of things on both sides of the football, and then I gave a lot of credit to the special teams. It was going to be one of those days, not expecting a lot of wind, but wind was going to be a factor in some of the things that you had to do, whether it was kickoffs or even punts, and then our ability to be dominant in some of those phases is something that they prided themselves in as well. And they blocked 2 kicks the week before against Nebraska, and I thought our guys did a really, really good job and understood what was going to be, what they were going to see, and then have to be able to adapt and adjust. And so as you put all those things together, again, we're playing better football, and that's to me what you like to see. We got a long way to go. We know that. We got an incredible mountain to continue to climb week in and week out, day by day. But there are things that that we've kind of pounded and harped upon, whether it's from the winter through the spring, that we're starting to see, and I think those guys are starting to see as well.
Luke, what specific differences or improvements do you think you've seen in the offensive line this season, and how would you assess the job A.J. Blazek has done since he came in
Well,
here?
we don't usually do a whole lot of assessments mid-season about the jobs people are doing because they're all working. I think they're all doing getting better. I think initially it's hard to just pinpoint, but I think the guys working together, the guys understanding, even honing in on who's behind you, I think helps too. And you start to figure out what your strengths are once you start to see some of those strengths. And I think you can kind of focus on them and enhance them. I would say as much as anything is just their ability to play together. We've had consistency up front in particular across the board. And I don't just mean that with, obviously the same 5 guys starting. We've been relatively, free of some injuries, and other guys have had to play. But I think their ability to, figure out what it is that they do well and play together, I think that's where, we're doing a really good job up front. We're getting on bodies. We're giving our backs opportunities. And I think that whole thing kind of comes together. It's not just the O-line. There's a connection there with the backfield. There's a real connection with the consistency of what we're doing. And I think that's what's showing. So to say they're doing a great job, it would, obviously I wouldn't want to do that because we know there's a lot more we've got to be able to do and a lot more we've got to grow. But probably first and foremost, I'd say the consistency across the board of how they're playing up front each and every week has been really impressive.
How you sorry. How you doing, Luke? That was a game against like a hard-nosed, run-first team, running down your throat. But you guys did a good job of limiting them. I'm just curious of what you saw out of the defensive line, front seven, how you've seen them progress this year.
Yeah, I thought going into the game, it was about the edges, and that didn't mean that we were neglecting the guys that were inside. But I thought that going into the game, the key for defensively and a lot even offensively was we had to control the edges. We had to win the C gap, and I thought we did a really good job of that, and that's where it started. I think they maybe changed a little bit and didn't challenge some of those things quite as much, and maybe it was because we had done a good job the year before as well. But those guys were able to adjust and adapt a little bit too to some of the things that they did a little bit different. But across the board, I think we did a good job at and I don't say dominating. Sometimes you get a different vision of what dominating the line of scrimmage is, but controlling the line of scrimmage, making sure that there's a wall built in a lot of situations was really critical. And I think that put them in a situation where maybe they had to make some adjustments. They tried, maybe some different things, maybe getting the ball on the edge a little bit more early on with a couple things. They'd run a few gap scheme things, I think, just to try to make us play a little bit more honest and see if they could loosen up our edges. But I thought those guys did a really good job. Coaches did a good job at having some mix-ups, too, where you didn't just sit yourself in the C gap. You were able to move yourself outside the C gap and then refit the C gap with either a backer or a safety. And I thought those adjustments and changes that our guys were able to handle gave us an opportunity, I think, to first and foremost set edges.
Luke, us on the outside, we can see that Vinny Anthony is fast, but from a coaching perspective, what is he doing technique-wise to continue getting himself open and making big
You're
plays?
asking a nose guard what the wide receiver is doing technique-wise to get himself open. Again, it comes back to that similar word of consistency. And I think the one thing one of the big things since we've been here in particular, Vinny Anthony, if you asked me, I would say where he was when we walked in the door, just physically to where he is now, is a far cry. And that happens because guys mature, guys continue to grow, and he's done that. He's gotten bigger. I think he's gotten stronger. Has he gotten faster? I think he's quicker. I think he's more explosive in some of those situations. And now we're giving him some more opportunities. And you can see guys in particular, just like our team, you can see confidence start to grow. And it's twofold. When he's got confidence in himself, in reverse, coaches have confidence in him, and the quarterback's got confidence, and we give him some shots and some opportunities. And I think that, as much as anything, that combination of, being stronger and faster and more mature, but also gaining a lot of confidence because in some of those balls that people would say are 50-50, he's made the plays, and I think it'll continue to grow.
Hey, Luke. Xavier Lucas played season-high in snaps, 38. I think he was targeted 6 times, just 2 catches for 10 yards. Where have you seen some of the most growth from him, even in season, and how impactful has some of his presence been?
Well, I think impactful, it's hard to tell. I think the great thing, even with him, I think we've had the ability to, as a young guy, to play him situationally. I didn't know he had 38 snaps. I guess I didn't see that was his most he's had this year. He's been a guy that we've been able to roll, and that's something we didn't have last year. I think the depth at the back end made it really difficult to get some of those guys in and get roles for those guys. But as you see, we're playing some different personnels, and he has, maybe not the starting role, but he has a role as soon as we go to dime or as soon as we go into a different package, which I think gives him some confidence as well. He's a guy that we knew walking in the door he was going to have talent. We knew that he was going to, have to be put in there at some point in time, and then how was he going to handle that? How was his maturity going to handle that? Can he, adjust week in and week out? And he's done a really good job. I don't know that he's been targeted. Obviously, you said the targets that he's had, but it's not like somebody's coming in there and say, hey, there's a true freshman over there, let's go target him. And that's not because he's a true freshman. That's because he has done a good job when he's been in there at being consistent. And I would tell you that that's the way he's been in practice, which is the way he's played. And that's not always what you get from a young guy. Usually there's a bit more of a roller coaster with young guys. They can go in and they can perform well and they can play well in their 20, 30 snaps sometimes, but even in, throughout the week, coaches-wise, you're still a little bit worried. He's not a guy that I'd say you'd think that about. He's a guy that's a bit more mature beyond his years, and I think it's starting to show, and obviously maybe a little bit more with and more numbers and plays and situations like that, but it's because he's earned them.
This week, the situation at Northwestern is unique with the stadium they got going on this year as they built their new place. And I guess I'm wondering, when you go to a new place, obviously the field is the same size, but are there any other things that you look at as a head coach that just concern you when you're trying to familiarize yourself and get ready to?
No, we're not going to get into whatever they ask us to play or tell us to play, we'll play. If it's a parking lot, we'll play in the parking lot. I don't think we got a whole lot to say after how we performed and how we played last year. So I could care less where we're playing at and what the situation is. Our guys, anytime you go on the road in the Big Ten, you're going to have to handle some things, whether it's a new stadium, whether it's the wind, whether it's a locker room. It is what it is. Not going to spend a whole lot of time worried about that, but obviously our guys will be aware that it's not where they've probably played in the past or what they would expect. But again, that can't be any distraction or of any concern this week because we got a lot of work to do.
Luke, I know you were asked about the defensive line, but specifically with Elijah Hills, I know we talked about him earlier in the year. You weren't really sure what to expect, but it feels like every game there's a play or two that he just jumps out. I know you want your guys to create havoc. What is it about him mentally and physically that allows him to do it?
I'd love to tell you, I could tell you mentally and physically mentally I'd like to tell you that's not the case. I've known the guy for 6 months, but I can tell you this, that he's a competitor. And I'm not saying I knew that watching film in the short amount of time which we had to get him here. As we got him here, you saw that he had a competitive spirit to him. Did you know how much, kind of explosion he had and things like that? No, I initially thought he was a smaller guy, but as he got here and, got into the program and things like that, he's bigger than maybe he appears, and he has a little bit more pop than maybe I even thought and knew initially. But I do think there's a confidence level there that he continues to show week in and week out. And I think that's something that you didn't know from spring. That's something you didn't know even from fall camp, just because it's kind of a monotonous, repetitive thing. And then, how guys kind of handle Saturdays is always a little bit different. And so when you got new guys like that, you kind of are curious how that's going to happen. And I can tell you he's continued to grow. He must have been he had confidence, but you can see that confidence is continuing to grow. And we try to do a good job of putting him in some positions where he can play a little bit freer because, where you'd love to have some guys that are different across the board. We've talked about this, whether it's the backfield, right? Whether it's even up front. The ability for us to play 6 guys or 5 guys, and they're all a little bit different, I think votes well for some of the things that we want to be able to do, and it gives him an opportunity probably to make some more of those havoc plays because he is a little bit different maybe than the other guys that are playing up front.
Luke, you've said a few different times this season that you wanted to put more on the offensive line and that they could handle it. Obviously, I know this group offensively has room to grow, but is what they did on Saturday sort of everything you hoped this offense could be in terms of blending some of those big pass plays with being physical in the run game?
Yeah, it is. It is. The ability to make some plays down the field, we showed that play. I think it was the first one. No, actually, the first 2 plays was the second down, the second play of the game and the third play of the game. That was the first 2 plays I showed Sunday, and then the third play was the big shot. And everybody just sees the shot that Vinny Anthony caught, and then you start to go back at it and you look at the pocket and you look at the ability for Braden to kind of have some patience with it, to be able to move himself a little bit, step up and have a free lane. Like, those are the things that sometimes people don't talk about. They just look at the shots down the field. And I think that's where, putting some pressure on the guys up front, saying, okay, it's not just pound the football. It's not just the run game. It's how clean can we keep him? I think he was sacked 1 time. He probably was only hit a couple times I know one on a third down play that we didn't. I don't think we blocked the edge. I think they slid a guy off the field side edge, and he obviously we completed it on third down. Braden took a shot, but other than that, he's pretty clean. And I think that balance is what we envision, but it doesn't happen unless you can, not just control and run the football, but that you can protect as well and give him the pockets that we need to give him. So, yes, there's a lot of positives from the guys up front. That they're doing a good job, but it's going to continue to grow. And there's going to be continued that as people see that, they're going to challenge them more in different ways, and they got to be able to handle it. And, their ability to adjust and adapt, I think, is where, some of the things that maybe we didn't do as good a job of last year, and I mean that within a game, I think we're seeing from the maturity of those guys and that connection with just them, obviously their coach and obviously the backs as well, because the backs are a big part of some of that protection.
Luke, with some of that new technology with the iPads, just how have you had to adjust, you and the assistants have had to adjust, throughout this season, but also just where have you maybe even seen that new technology help the most within this team or position group?
I do think it's up front. I do think because each and every week, you try to simulate what guys are going to do. And it's always a little bit different. I tell the defensive line guys every week, we're going to try to block it the way we expect them to block it, but it's going to be different, right? They're either going to come off the ball a little faster, they're going to be a little stronger, and you've got to be able to adapt and adjust in just what your techniques are. And so I think those guys in game to be able to see what's happening, I think it's helped those guys. I think the same thing on the offensive line. The thing about it is, as you become a little bit more in tune with what it is that you do, right? The what's and the whys. That's where the game time, adjustments happen. And when you can have the maturity to understand the what's and the whys of what you're doing, when you see things, in real time because you can use the iPad, it does give you an opportunity to make those adjustments. And sometimes the coach, that's simple because you spend all this time studying it and doing it. But for those guys to understand that, to be able to see something and then be able to, adjust, like I just talked about the D-line, to be able to adjust how they're playing something based on the way that which they're blocked. It's still a zone block, but they are playing it a little bit different than what you've seen all week. And I just think that that has given those guys an opportunity, the mature ones, the ones that have played enough ball, to understand that there's little adjustments. It's not a wholesale change within a game, but there's definitely different ways that which you have to play on both sides of the front.
Luke, I know it's early in the week, but do you have any sense of where Will Pauling is at in terms of his health and availability for Saturday?
No, we won't. I mean, he'll obviously he'll be a little bit questionable from the start of the week, but I think that there was some good news in that there wasn't a concussion. It wasn't anything that maybe is major of some sorts. So we just got to see where he is and how he feels. And like I said, it's early on right now, but with a lot of guys like Will, we do need to continue to be smart during the week. There's a balance to what you're doing, but you are starting to get to that middle of the second half of the season. And we kind of talked about this as we move forward. This is a different league now, and you do have to be able to handle things a little bit different as you get to that mid-second half of the season.
Atticus, you kind of talked about the win. It seems like Atticus is, he kicks I don't know if it's a tough ball to catch, but it just seems like, he's made it an adventure for the opposing team there. And I guess I'm wondering what have you seen from him in terms of him being able to, I don't know, put more, some spin or something. I don't know how you do it.
Last week was a tough one to think you're going to put a whole lot on the ball, right? I mean, they were going to bring 7, 8, sometimes 9 guys, and the idea wasn't as much of, hey, how can we place the ball, as it was to let's make sure we are in rhythm to get this ball off. And I mean that because a lot of times they wouldn't even cover the gunners. They didn't cover Will Pauling or Vinny Anthony. They just let them run free. They weren't trying to return. They were trying to, obviously get a hand on it and block it. So that kind of makes it a little bit more difficult in some things, but that's where you're seeing even the growth of Addy. He understood what the game plan was. He understood how he had to, execute in the rhythm in which he had to punt the ball with. And but I would say sometimes, left-footed punter, that even though it's not always a spiral punt, it's a lot of end over ends the way we kick it. It is different, and it's not something that guys can replicate every week if you don't have a left-footed kicker. And so I think the combination of those things, along with the pressure that those guys have been able to apply, has given us an opportunity to take advantage of that. We punted 2 into the end zone this past week, which is a far cry from what we want. but there was unique conditions with how the wind was and the pressure. So, we can do a lot more with where Atticus is, not just with his ability to kick the ball, but with his ability to understand, game plans and what people are trying to do to attack us.
Luke, you've been able to have a lot of success running the ball, especially these last couple of weeks when you've pared down the rotation. How do you decide when and how to use Cade, given his production, especially knowing you're trying to get Darian going?
There's not an exact science. And I know it can be frustrating for some, and Cade in particular. Like, there's nobody that's got a higher, per carry average than Cade does. But I think that's a product of a little bit of the system. And we try to refer to it every week and remind guys that if you do what's best for the team in the long run, it'll be what's best for you. Cade is a prime example of that. And when he gets his opportunities, he's taken incredible advantage of those opportunities. And the way the game goes, the way the season goes, the way that position is, we're going to need at least 3 and possibly 4. You just don't know when and you don't know how. And it takes a lot of maturity. That's another word you keep hearing over and over again. But it takes a lot of maturity to be able to be in that position that not everybody could do. They couldn't be the second, third, or that third/first in some of the things that I talked to him about. That's a difficult position to do, and he's done a great job of it. And who knows how it's going to continue to roll? But it's a little bit of a, not a crapshoot. We have an idea, but it's a little bit more of, hey, what can we handle? What can they handle? And how can it be successful to us? Because if a guy like Cade couldn't handle that, when he did go in there, it wouldn't probably be nearly as good as what it has been. And you wouldn't feel as good if something else happened at him walking in there and being the number 1 guy as well. So, like I said, it's a process, but his ability and his maturity give us a chance to use it in the best way possible for the team.
Yeah, I think, number one, the big thing we took away is fundamentals, the little things. On offense, hand placement, leverage. On defense, angles. That was the biggest thing we took away, and those will prevent the explosive plays when you're better at tackling on defense. And the little things on offense up front, there was a lot of good, and then there's plays you look at, you're like, man, that could have been it. But you can't live in those worlds. You got to live in what we did. So we just got to get better on the little things. That's what we really worked on last week and going into this week.
And I asked Donovan about this, but it looked like there was some slippage with the cleats. Do you guys bring just separate sets of cleats and stuff like that?
Yeah, we're always ready for it. I mean, that's something that, it came up in the game, and we got to do a better job just with our footing and all those things to help the guys.
Dennis?
You said a little bit about what you worked on in the bye week. Do you feel like you improved, and can you talk about some of those little things that you guys worked on?
Yeah, I think fundamentals, technique, the little things make the big things, and it's not the scheme part of it. We got to adjust and do different things, but really it's about the little details. And when you make those little details work, it's going to make you a better player. It's going to make you a better team. So that's what we worked on throughout the whole week, and even yesterday when we had a practice. So it was a good day yesterday, and we continued to have a good week last week.
On the left, Isaiah.
Jair seemed like he maybe took a step back a little bit this last week after having stacked a couple really good games. What did you see from him against Washington, and how do you kind of get him back to where he was against USC and Minnesota?
Yeah, he just got to play confident. He's got to play with great technique, play with great eyes, and do little things that the coaches are asking him, and just have confidence in himself that he can do it, because he's done it on great stages before against really good players. So just continue to do that and do it in practice and carry it to games.
On the right here, Charlie.
Sherrone, the guys have said that Jack's been a leader for a long time now, but have you seen him kind of step it up in these past week and a half?
Yeah, I mean, he's been who he's been. Obviously he hadn't practiced for a whole length of time, then got to practice and played in the game. So, being they call him Uncle Jack, the 7th-year guy, that's done it, seen it, been in the big games, been in all the games. So he's done a really good job, and he just continued to progress and do those things right now.
Austin?
Jack mentioned last week you called him after the Washington game just to make sure he wasn't being too hard on himself about the turnovers. Why did you feel like that was the right thing to do, and what was the message there?
I mean, nobody beats themselves up about a loss or anything that happens more than the players do. And it's my job to make sure that they're in a good mental headspace and can continue to push forward. So thought for 3 weeks of practice, played, or 3 days of practice really, went in the game and competed at a high level. And obviously the turnovers are what they are, and we have to eliminate them. But wanted to make sure that he knew we were confident in him and what he could do. And I think, pushing forward and how he's prepared these last couple days, last week, into yesterday and into today, and he's up there watching film. He's gone in the right direction.
In the middle, Charles.
Yeah, what do you remember from that win over Illinois in 2022, and how can you kind of use that going against them this week?
Yeah, I mean, that was a different team. We had a different team. They had a different team. It was a physical battle. It was physical at the line of scrimmage. It was physical in the air. I remember it was super windy. We couldn't throw one direction, so you can only run one direction because the wind was all over the place. And went down to the wire, and I thought our kids fought to the end, offensively, defensively, special teams. Obviously, Jake Moody hitting the kick to win it. It was a tough battle, and we know it's going to be a tough battle down there. And it's a physical team that Coach Bielema does a great job coaching his program from his days at Wisconsin to now. So we're just ready for the challenge.
Angelique.
Sure. For Jack, was it a bit of a crash course last week and getting him up to speed even more?
No, I mean, even though he didn't practice, he's been in meetings, he's been out there, so he's seen it, he's done it. He just hasn't been able to practice and do all the things at full speed and, obviously throwing and the timing and all that. So from the perspective of knowing and understanding the system, no, but getting getting the things done and timing with the receivers and the tight ends and, timing the handoffs and all those things, that's what he had to really progress at, and he did a really good job.
And who's the backup quarterback?
We'll see. Right now, we still have Alex. Alex will be there, and he'll have a role, and we still got Davis. So we'll continue to roll those guys.
In the front here, Tony.
Yeah. Obviously, you don't control when the bye week falls, but seemed to come at a pretty good time. Guys were banged up, awful loss. I guess was there a moment? I mean, did you guys get out of the facility? Was there extra time in the facility? How did you guys really regroup this week for?
A little bit of both. We, last week we came in practice, did what we need to do, but also want to get their guys, the bodies back, rested, get them mentally clear too. That's a big piece of it. So they had Friday and Saturday off, just to be to themselves, and whether they went home or most of them were here, and they were, guys were still in the facility doing stuff. So, but it was a good time for everybody to refresh and get their time. And coaches went on the road recruiting, so it was good.
And I guess building on that, these last 3 years, it's so easy to have fun, right? Every step of the way. How are you guys still? I mean, making everybody still doing that.
Gotta have fun. You gotta have fun. You can't dread this. You gotta love this. It's just a blessing to walk in this building. So every day I just pinch myself and think about the thought process of that. And yeah, the last 3 years, but there's a lot of hard times in those 3 years. It wasn't all peaches and roses. It wasn't all happy times, but the wins showed that made us happy. But there's plenty of times we came in here and said we got to learn from these wins, and we did. So we got to do the same thing with the losses.
On the right, Aaron.
Defensively, you guys are getting thrown at maybe more than maybe one other team in the country. Is that something you expected coming in this year, and how do you scheme against that, or can you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can't really expect anything. You guys just expect everything. You guys expect that they can run, that they'll try to run, they'll try to throw, they'll do different things to. Guys are getting the ball out fast because they know the pass rush is going to be there. So we just got to do a good job with our schematics and then our fundamentals to make sure we can stop them.
Rod Moore's, is there an update on him or where he's at status-wise?
Still progressing. Yeah, can't really speak on the exact timeline of the date, but he's still progressing in a good way.
Are you still hopeful that he might return this year?
Yeah, we'll see.
Ryder?
And you mentioned along those lines on the in-house radio program that the pass defense has to get better. Can you pinpoint, some of the reasons why there have been so many issues there? Is it schematics, execution, combination of both? What have you been able to kind of?
Yeah, I think it's really just the little things that we talked about. You got to get better fundamentally. You got to get better at our angles when the ball is caught, and that'll help all the big things come to fruition.
How about the Wink's decision to send some of the guys out from the secondary on blitzes? And kind of leaving maybe some vacant holes on the back end. Is that something that you guys have kind of?
When you study our film from the past years and this year, people say we'll blitz more or don't blitz more. It's not. That's not the case. We just got to do a really good job with how we scheme, when we scheme, but also executing at a high level. We're all in this together, so there's no pointing fingers.
On the left, Chris.
Coach,
Coach, it seems like in this era of roster composition, you always got to be thinking ahead. What is Sean McGee's role in that? How has he done? What's he doing?
Yeah, he's done a great job. You know, you're exactly right. This is a different era of football, and you got to have a forward thinking of what you do. And you know, we're compiling names and data, not only of college, but high school, and trying to build it from the high school ranks and make sure we get a core foundation of that. I think we're doing a good job with this recruiting class, and we'll continue to bring in the pieces needed that we need help immediately, to replace and do things and sustain the success that we need to get. So he's done a really good job of just managing the numbers and the roster, and we got the 105 and all those changes coming. So forward thinking and all that, and letting us do the football stuff.
And how much of that is concentrating on your own roster too, and making sure they're taken care of?
Yeah, it's a lot. We got to make sure that our guys are here. That's the number one group we got to recruit, and we got to make sure they're happy mentally, physically, and spiritually. Make sure the guys here are in a good place.
On the left there, Ryan.
Looks like you guys have only had one freshman burn the red shirt so far this year. Would you say that's more of a product of a tougher early season schedule, or maybe a change in philosophy trying to preserve younger players?
I mean, just guys that are ready, so just trying to make sure that the guys that we put in the game that they're ready physically and mentally. When you bring in 5 offensive linemen, it's hard to play all 5 offensive linemen. Bring a couple DBs, sometimes those guys will play. And skill guys who always say it's easier to play farther away from the ball early, so the skill guys will play more than the guys up front. So it's just really a product of the guys that are ready, and we'll see how the rest of these games go and who we need and the guys we need to platoon will go win.
On the right here, Angelique.
Sherrone, Quentin the other day was talking about that this is time for the players for self-evaluation. Is it the same for the coaches too, and what's that process like?
Yeah, I mean, I told everybody, myself, players, coaches, that was the message in the locker room. It's not time to panic, but we have to evaluate what we need to do and how we need to operate. And you saw that last week in practice, how we practiced, what we did in practice, and really into yesterday on how those guys practiced and prepared. They came out with a ton of energy, enthusiasm, but also a lot of detail on the little things, and not so much of this holistic thing, but the little details are the things that help us win, and we got to continue to focus on that.
What about the coaches? Do you feel like, coaches feel like they had to make some changes too?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're always self-evaluating. This is a great time when you have a bye week to self-scout, to see what you've done, how's effective, what's worked, what hasn't, and you have the data, you have the film, so we did a lot of that, and I think it's going to help us as we go through.
What was your reaction to the Dave Portnoy thing?
I'm not commenting on that right now.
Need another question, Angela? You got another one? Austin?
Sure, how much time did you spend during the off week looking at the turnovers specifically, and is there anything you can pinpoint about why that's been an issue with different guys at quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at everything. The biggest thing in the picks was either route distribution and timing of the throw. Protection was one. What really was that? And so when you get a mistimed route and a mistimed throw, that's what happens. So we got to, really focus on, again, the little things, the route detail, the precision of the throw, the precision of the route, making sure those things are all time up, and then putting guys in a position to make sure they're successful. So moving guys around in different places, which I think we did a really good job with this past week, and excited to see them as we practice this week go.
All right, Andrew.
As far as your trip to the Pacific time zone and then coming back, I know you didn't have a game to prepare for right away, but did you notice any effects from it?
No, not from going there, because you gain the time there, and we tried to adjust our time when we went there to make it as similar as possible for them being a night game playing here. So everything, we gave them the time to rest, we gave them, and we just kind of went down the schedule like it was. And then coming back, obviously, it's good to have the bye weeks coming back, and I think those are necessary as we go through the schedule and continue to do that. But going there was an effect, but obviously, coming back, we got back at like 5:30 in the morning, so that bye week was much needed.
And then this Illinois team, what have you seen from them?
I mean, Coach Bielema just does an outstanding job building a program, physicality, toughness, detail in what they do offensively. Luke Ottmeyer, the quarterback, he's he's gotten so much better. He just progressed from last year to this year. You can see him being in the system for another year. And they've got skill guys all over the place with the receivers and the two backs, really good. And then defensively, tough physical front. You know, they've mixed up the coverages in these past games, played a little bit more quarters last game, and that could have been of who they were playing. But they, you know, mainly a one-high team that'll go into some two-high stuff. But physical defense, and we've got to be ready for that challenge.
Got time for a few more. We'll start with Reiner.
Yeah, considering that the offense was always going to be a work in progress, you know, 10 new starters, I mean, how hard has it been to absorb some of the problems and issues that you guys have had on defense?
Well, you know, we got to adjust and keep overcoming. We've done a really good job of staying together, and you know, we're a couple plays here, a couple plays there from, you know, those big plays not happening or something not going the right way, and we're just continue to work. That's all we're going to do. You know, we can't worry about the past now. You know, we're going to help that lead us to the future, and continue to work and get better.
Right here, Aaron.
Dom, Miles, and Derek, are they going to be available?
Looks like they're trending all in the right direction. So, feel good about them. I think they'll all practice this today. So, I feel like we're in a good place with them all.
On the left, Isaiah.
Mark Walker was pretty fired up after he had his big catch against Washington.
Yeah.
What's kind of allowed him to progress to this point, and how much more can we maybe see him bring forward?
Yeah, confidence, man. He's such a talented kid, and confidence and acknowledgement of the system, knowing the system, and us just moving him around different places. And yeah, definitely gonna have a role here a little bigger as we grow. And he's, you know, started last week and really got into this week, and excited to watch him grow this week.
All right. No other questions unless Angelique's got 15. But
she's like,
Room's gonna be out for a while.
Looks like it. So we'll just keep working with the doctors, but it looks like it will be.
Do you think the offensive line, the starting five, will be the same?
We'll see. You know, if Miles is back, then I think Miles will be the starter at left tackle, and then we'll see at right tackle. I thought Curt did a really good job. You know, I think he did a really good job of controlling line scrimmage with the calls, especially in that environment. You know, being pretty calm. But he's been a guy that's traveled to different places, seen it. So it looks like he'll cement himself there and continue to work there. But you know, we'll see what happens with Dom and. You know, Percy gave, you know, some great experience being an older guy, so that gives us a challenge at the other spots to see what he can do.
So is there competition at right tackle now?
Yeah, there's always competition now, so.
I'm getting the last question.
Yeah.
I'm getting the last question, which you want to talk about Adrian.
Yeah, I really just want to, I texted him. I also just want to say a prayer to him and his family. Horrific injury. I mean, what a great human being, obviously an outstanding player, but a great human being, and you know, left a legacy here, and I know he's the heartbeat of that team. So really, just want to say a prayer to him and his family, tell him that, you know, they're in our thoughts, and also Coach Harbaugh. You know, I sent him a text. He's going to the doctor today, so he better go. So hope he's doing well. But just prayers to both of them.
Well, got back in obviously Sunday and did a lot of review of the game, not just obviously the critical areas that. Second half, but just really from the get-go, from the opening play to the last play, never been involved in a game where there was so much swing and emotion, and obviously the impact that had during the course of the game, our reaction to it. Obviously, I said what I said after the game about just the great learning moment. I've always said, right, you actually probably can teach more and make your team grow the most after wins than after a loss, but I would say that's even probably tripled, if not more, with teams that you win, right? But win in a close game, right? In a way that I think they know they could have easily lost that game and how bad they would have felt afterwards. So I think it was a really good teaching moment on Sunday, not just for a defense, but also certain phases of, you know, the special teams we really played really well in the special teams game, except for obviously the onside kick, right? So you do things really, really good. I know Dish made a big point about there was a graphic they put out, the best special teams unit in the country, and he made a big point of that on Friday and in his talk to our guys, and I saw it transcend on the field. Unfortunately, we weren't able to come up with the onside kick, which would have negated the whole scenario, but a really good teaching moment for our guys, players, coaches, everybody involved. Honored a lot of really good players on offense. Luke got more accolades today, right? And then I would just do a special shout-out now to, if everybody can amplify who Pat Bryant is, to the Blitnikoff Award. I'm not trying to get him an award. I'm just trying to get him on the watch list. We had to do this last year with Isaiah. Williams, who ended up being one of the best receivers in the country and on an active NFL roster now. Pat Bryant literally leads, if not, he's in the top 3 in major categories, not just in our conference, but in the country. So special shout out to the Blitnikoff. Hopefully you begin to hear us. We email him every week, and it's falling on deaf ears. But Pat Bryant is a guy that literally embodies everything that we preach here about the development of who he is, what he stands for. That I'm sure a lot of you saw the Big Ten Journey episode last week, which it was just a truly remarkable piece, not just on him as a football player, but him as a person. I just thought it was really cool. So also at that position, Zachary Franklin just continues to show up and do a lot of really good things. I think you have a guy like that that just continues to show up game in and game out. And then one that was really special, Hank Beatty, just a guy, again, one of the first guys that we offered when we got here from Rochester, and everything that he embodies, what he represents, the background and the history of who he is. And then I was ironically on the field, right? There was a million people. Wanted to make sure I got across to shake the coach's hand, and then got a chance to, celebrate with our guys. But it was all of a sudden there was this army of young people around me, and it was Hank Beatty, and it was just all these kids from his community that had come to celebrate his day. So I didn't know that was going on, and then to have him play the way he did was really, truly awesome. So also I thought Josh McCray really stepped for the forefront and did a lot of really good things. Josh Kreutz up front probably played his best game as a center. Just really was involved in a lot of one-on-one blocks with that front that they play. It puts a lot of stress on the center, and I thought he handled that very well defensively. Kind of 3 guys at all 3 different levels. T-Raw Edwards played extremely good. You need that nose to play well in a game like that, and he did a really good job. Was our most productive player up front and graded out over 90%, a really good player. Obviously, Dylan Rosiak is a one-man wrecking machine on the last play of overtime. I don't know if we need to hold him for that last play, but he was. I thought there was a justifiable moment. I know he was extremely frustrated at the end of the game when they scored, and then to have the vindication, the way he played the last snap and to kind of put that game to bed was awesome. And then really a guy that Caleb Patterson just has continued to grow. A guy that played every snap. I think we had very few guys that played every defense snap. He was one of them. I just thought he played. Even getting the tight end down on the wide delay there to get a guy down and put us in a position to play another play was really, really awesome. So super excited about that, and we'll move on to the Michigan game. This is one that obviously I made a big point of it the other day. Josh is going to be our guest captain. I know how much this means to the fan base of Illinois, and Josh being a former alum here and obviously director of our intercollegiate athletics, what he stands for and represents to make this game what it is has been awesome. To have it culminate this week into 2 ranked teams, I couldn't believe when I saw the stat. The last time this happened was when he was a senior in college, which is amazing. Not that you're that old, Josh, but just to kind of put things in perspective of what we're doing right now and what we're able to accomplish. I know everybody lives in the now and all that goes into it, but there's just so many stats I see every week that Bret throws in my box. Lauren, you were 70 the last time that we had a team that knocked off another ranked opponent, if I believe right, 1990, right? Wow, 2. Well, I'm 3-3 against them, and I didn't like the last one. So everybody's got their history. This game means a lot to me. We will put our best foot forward and excited about the opportunity and go.
Jed, 3-0 in close games, 2-0 in overtime games. I know a lot goes into that, obviously, but for your team specifically, what's been the difference between winning and losing those close games?
One of the things I always say, I love to read the quotes of our opponents that we're playing against, right? For the most part, I think you get a real honest assessment either before the game, during the game, or after by what players say, right? And coaches are a little bit more savvy. They know their responses, but players usually regurgitate what they believe and what they feel, and they do it in the most critical moments. And Bret and I have been together now since we got here 4 years ago, and he always sends me quotes from our players and what they say, and the one thing that just resoundingly keeps coming back is the way that we prepare is the way that we play, right? And the moments that we put these guys in, I think during practice, I spent a lot of time. I don't know how many hours this morning already just kind of working about Tuesday's practice, right? So Michigan is a very scripted football team. They play very, very good football. They're sound fundamentally, offensively, defense, special teams. Their offense has been on the field for 74% of their snaps have been early downs, and their defense 77% of their downs, right? So the reason we practice early downs on Tuesday is the large part of the game, 75% of the game is played on early down. So we got to learn to play like that. So, in answer to your question, like, I think the thing that gives our guys the moment to have those things to be successful is they've been prepared, they've been put in that position, they visualize it, and also a little bit of some of the pain of the past, right? So some of our number one season goal this year was remember the past, prepare for the future, and I think literally every week that comes up. I give, Aaron, I'm sure you guys just shot a lot of questions at him, right? But when they were out at the coin toss, I literally clicked over defense. I think I said in the post-game presser, I said, hey, these guys score a touchdown, they're going for 2. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I'm just telling you that's what has happened. As soon as I saw them score and I saw their whole staff put up 2, we had already called what we wanted to call defensively. I think Aaron had it down to 2 calls, and he called the play that ultimately won the game, right? So a lot of fun in that.
You, Josh is playing this game for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys have made it into something even bigger. So
Mhm.
what does this moment mean for you guys?
Yeah, the last one was pretty big, right? And then the reason I just got choked up is you guys probably know what happened the last time we played, right? So the last one was big. I thought we had a good enough football team to go up there and win. Unfortunately, it didn't, right? And there's a lot of things that went into it, things that we could have done better. So we didn't get to rematch these guys last year, so we got a chance to rematch them this year. Those things mean a lot to, I think even in league play, it's changed a little bit now, but this year we had 6 rematch games. We're through 4 of them. We're 3-1. Last year against those same 4 teams, we were 0-4, right? So I think our guys know the growth they've had, but I told them last night there is nothing more challenging than to have a team that has continued to play well and continues to move forward to keep doing the same things that have brought you success, right? Don't get bored doing things well. And that's why there's going to be a huge emphasis on Tuesday's practice. We had to have a huge learning day yesterday, but the fact that Josh, did everything he could to get this game to be here on this date in this moment. I know a lot of other people did as well, but to make it a big game has been awesome for me as a head coach. Like, I know that this is Michigan week, right, from the outside world, but for us, it's got to be the same preparation day in and day out, just as much as it was this past week against Purdue, just as much as what it'll be next week against Oregon, all the things that matter.
You hinted at it a little bit Saturday night, but can you walk us through the nightmare that it is when you know a quarterback change is happening and maybe you're going to see something completely different, and oh, by the way, we only have like 24 hours to prepare for this?
Yeah, I think that's, I've been a coordinator. I remember I learned through that exact moment. I had a great idea. We were at Kansas State. We were playing Texas. And I forget who the starting quarterback was, but we're like, hey, we're going to get after these guys. We're really going to do it. And if we get him out, right, they're going to bring this young guy that really hasn't played yet. His name was Vince Young. Come in and run about for 250 yards on weak side option. Some play we had never saw all year, right? So I kind of learned early in my career that sometimes these moments can sneak up on you. And I knew this, right? As soon as I saw Hudson was out, I knew he'd probably been injured in the Wisconsin game, right? He got thrown around like a rag doll that fourth quarter, right? So however it played out, I knew that whoever was calling the plays or whatever they're doing, they were scripting from Sunday on against our defense. And the preparation that they had of an entire week was going to play out in front of us, right? We did some things in the first half, which probably kept it at the score that it was. And then I think it was just a perfect storm. We gave up 3 plays that accounted for about almost 180 yards in a matter of literally real time, 12 minutes. And it just scripted out to work really hard against us. The great thing is we survived it with a W. I think there's a lot of times people have been around a lot of Illinois fans. I took my family to dinner Saturday night afterwards at the country club, and I think 4 people grabbed me aside and said, we've never seen that before, right? We always lose that game. And so fortunately the things are starting to turn in the right direction, but nothing is going to help us carry forward into Saturday.
Talk about perspective a lot. I'm curious for you, what are you learning about maybe what you guys are building here as it relates to the big game?
Yeah, it's a great question. I get excited as a coach when I see the littlest things play out in front of me, right? And it could be a simple thing about a stance, a club chop rip move, a technique. We do academic Zooms at 11 o'clock on Monday. I was excited today because there were several positive reports, but I was disappointed because there were a couple bad ones, right? So for me, these little mini milestones, that's what keeps me going. I can't go to Michigan on Saturday, right? I got to go through Monday to get to Tuesday. So all the little things that I pay attention to see those continually end up in the positive is really big. Just feedback from former players, right? Like we sent boxes to every NFL player and coach and a couple others, and I think that was on their mind. So I heard from a lot of players, hey, thanks for the gear, great game. But also the guys that have been with me since we got here 4 years ago, to see the positive things in our guys' preparation. So Colin Dixon is a guy that we recruited. He developed. You guys made him available for media last week, and he had a quote that somebody had asked him, basically, like, you redshirted a year ago and you're doing these things right now. And he said, well, last year on scout team, my game day was Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and I took advantage against going against the number one defense, and how that prepared him for this moment. And there's not a more impressive kid in our roster right now about the diligence that he prepares, right? And that play that he made on Saturday, that's a couple weeks in a row now where he's made big plays, and I just know where that career is going to go. Tip Ryman, as you guys all know, so Tip, he's also going to have a baby. So in his box last week, we threw a onesie in there. Pat Pearson had a great idea, and he literally shot me a text Friday and said, Coach, whoever thought of the onesie, I've greatly appreciated. Good luck this weekend. And I kind of just shot him a text, and I said, appreciate it, brother, thinking of you. And I sent the video of him double blocking two All-Pros, right? And I said, we've come a long way since post-spring game, my first year here together, where you sat in your stance for 2 seconds before moving. And he just commented, he's like, Coach, it's all been part of the process. And just like those little things, Isaiah Adams sent me a picture. He's starting at, or wherever he's playing at left guard yesterday, and he's playing against Yelder for Holt. So Yelder for Holt was a guy recruited at Arkansas. Those two played next to each other. Detroit Lions, what they're doing. See Dan Skipper running a wideout screen. I laugh all the time because he blocked 6 quick kicks for me at Arkansas. He's always had a special gift. Every Sunday, Detroit makes active 7 to 8 offensive linemen, and 3 of those guys played for me: Kevin Zeitler, Frank Ragnow, and Dan Skipper. Right? Those things matter to me, and they're hopefully going to get us. Those same kind of stories are developing right now at Illinois.
Any update on Caden Fagan and Xavier Scott?
I wish Caden. There's actually an appointment today with a Zoom doctor. Kind of what he's going through. We're drawing as many voices from the outside world as we can. What I love about our medical staff is they're extremely gifted and have been unbelievable with our guys that we have here, and the things that pop up that aren't really in our wheelhouse, we haven't seen a lot of, they go to the outside world. So we've incorporated doctors nationally from coast to coast. Some of you guys know Camino Bell was here this past weekend as a team physician for the New York Giants. He grabbed me at the walkthrough on Friday, and he said, hey, is that Caden Fagan? I said, yeah. Former running backs like running backs, right? And he's like, hey, we got a good hip doctor in New York, so we're researching that guy, right, to give information. So a little bit of everything, but nothing with him. Xavier, I saw him working out this morning. He actually was going to go, tried to go, just didn't feel it was right. Didn't think he put himself in a position to help the team on Saturday. So right now he's cleared for practice tomorrow. I really don't expect any issues with him moving forward.
Coach, you played against Michigan and Iowa. Coaching against Wisconsin. Being here now, is it going to change your feeling again about playing against them? Has it been heightened even? Talk to the AD a little bit about that.
No, I think, I've been in this conference a long time. I tell those guys all the time, right? So the first time we played these guys, I was a redshirt freshman, saw Bo Schembech run the other sideline, saw him get a penalty in the first half, which brought the whole place to crazy, which I thought was crazy watching someone that I'd only seen on TV. I have a huge respect for who they are, what they are. Actually, Lloyd Carr, when I first came into the league, when I was a head coach, he was the head coach of Michigan. And him and Coach Alvarez were very tight. So he actually kind of grabbed me after that first year. The only game I lost my first year, we went 12-1, was to Michigan. And I remember Lloyd grabbing me at spring meetings and just kind of talking about what I had in front of me and what I should, be aware of, what I should take. And, just really kind of took a young coach aside. Him and Jim Tressel probably treated me as well as anybody in that conference at the time. Joe Paul is still trying to figure me out, but those two guys were really, really good, and I've tried to do that now for me as a head coach. I've tried to carry it forward with young coaches that come up, and not saying I'm Lloyd Carr or Jim Tressel, but I've been in this league a long time, and I try to say those things to young coaches. But playing Michigan, I think from the outside world, is obviously makes a big deal, and it does to me too. But I learned this one from Coach Alvarez, right? I remember when he first began to teach and install on me some things, you don't get ready for Michigan, or you don't get ready for Ohio State, you don't get ready for Penn State in 1 week. You do it 365 days a year, right? And that's what you got to rely on. If you try to make it something magical in a week, it's never going to work. So it's kind of what we do.
I guess
With the Oregon
Time for
game,
one more after this.
the Oregon game being on CBS, will be 4 of your first 8 on networks and on 3 different ones. Is there some kind of tangible impact to getting Illinois football?
We're on CBS next week.
CBS,
Same crews
Fox.
and Ness and everybody. Oh, nice.
CBS, Fox, NBC.
You know what? Absolutely, it's awesome. I think anytime you go on national TV and make yourself in front of that many people is an awesome deal. I think the more that becomes the norm, I think that'll be the part that I really enjoy, right? Like, instead of celebrating all these great moments that are coming up like it's, like you hit lotto, let's just kind of act like we've been here, right? And there's definitely a growth that we have to go through as a football team, but also as a fan base. Like, listen, we haven't lost a game out there this year, right? That place should be rocking, right? That place should be going crazy. Right, to have 2 ranked teams, that's what I want to hear, right? And they've been great. Student section, after the game, whenever you see the last play and the camera vibrates, that means some good shit's happening in the stadium, right? That's a really good thing. And, right, when we go to Michigan, we have to prepare for crowd noise there. I would really like for someone to have to prepare for crowd noise coming here. That's when we've arrived.
When you have a game like this, whereas, obviously the 100-year anniversary, I know at Iowa they talk about the 1939 season and Niall Kinnick and everything else. They've used that for decades. Have you used, either this week or other times, the history of this game and what it meant to college football, that type of thing with the players?
Yeah. Before the season even started, I kind of talked about the game and knew that this was going to bring a lot of, we didn't know at the time we were going to have 2 ranked teams coming here. But I definitely, on Sundays, yesterday we obviously did our, in the first session, we kind of get together and we put the game to bed, and then we come back in an evening session before we get into Michigan prep, and I kind of put the final touches on what happened. One of the neat graphics that our video people did is they had the cannon drop on the stadium there, and then the shield came up with 100 years in it, and I just circled it, and I said, this didn't happen overnight, right? This happened because Josh and his crew got together during the last year and a half of planning of this and wanted to celebrate a 100-year anniversary game. We made some special favors to Nike. Ironically, we're going to Oregon next week, all right, the home of Nike and all that goes into it with Phil. But I crushed Nike for a year, right? Like, we're going to want special unis for this thing, and we're one of 2 new uniforms in college football that get to display this coming Saturday. So a lot went into it. Our players, I think, can know that, feel that, understand it. It's definitely part of what it is, but I wouldn't say it's the end-all, be-all. This is the 2024 University of Illinois against the 2024 Michigan team, and hopefully that makes its own story.
Excited about where this team's trending right now. I think we saw Friday night, the first time that this team found a way to, find spurts of playing at a high level in all 3 phases, all within one game, and that's something that we're gonna have to continue to do to compete in this league and find the outcomes that we're looking for here in the second half of the season. Excited to have our last home game on the lakefront against a really good Wisconsin team that's playing really well right now. Their 2 losses, obviously to a very talented Alabama team, had USC on the ropes early on the road, and these last 2 games have certainly caught their stride. I think in the last 2 games they've outscored their opponents something like 94-13. They're certainly a group that have found their groove, well coached, scary passing attack. They're finding ways to run the ball really effectively right now, playing good defense, very sound on special teams. Our group understands that we got a great challenge in front of us, but we're excited for that challenge and excited to be at home, excited for what the environment's going to look like, and excited to get back at it this afternoon and move into our Wisconsin prep.
Coach, last game saw quite a few Jack Loush deep balls to either Bryce Kurtz or A.J. Henning. What did it mean to you and the coaching staff that deep passing game was finally clicking for the first time this year?
Yeah, it's the exciting part about it is those are things that we've been seeing out of Jack these last couple weeks in practice, and to see that show up a few times, in game, you can just tell there's a level of continuity, timing, and trust with those guys right now, and it's something that I know all of us are excited for Jack and that wide receiving group to continue to build off of.
David.
Coach, just following up on that, when you're able to open up that deep passing game and force safeties to play in the too high shot, how does that open up the running game and allow Cam and Joe to kind of have a lighter box to work with?
Yeah, no, it's critical. Again, we talk about complementary football, but there's also complementary offense. I mean, when you have a balanced attack and strive for a balanced attack, effectively running the football can open up things in the RPO, play action, drop back pass game, and on the reverse side of that, when you prove that you can find ways to push the ball down the field effectively, that should certainly lead for opportunities to show up in the run game. And I'm excited for that to continue to trend in the right direction. For us to be at our best, we're going to have to continue to be a balanced attack that keeps play callers on their heels in terms of how we're trying to attack a defense.
Coach, Theron had another 3 pass breakups Friday night. How have you seen him set a model and step up for your relatively young cornerback room to follow this season?
Yeah, just very competitive and very confident right now. Consistent in his practice habits, and it's showing up on game day. But, I mean, the level of confidence that he's playing with right now, the amount of poise that he's playing with, he makes a big 4th down stop where the wide receiver, kind of bobbles the ball. He's able to get his hands in between his and knock the ball out, which is a huge play. Had one against Indiana. You can just tell, even when he is getting targeted, he's able to get himself back in phase and play with a lot of poise and compete for the football at the end. His level of play continues to trend in the right direction. And, I think he's setting an example for the other guys in the room of just what it looks like to consistently compete and challenge routes. And that's something that we're in need, going to continue to need out of him here moving forward.
Coach, Wisconsin's your home state. You were extended, or the interim tag was dropped after you won there last season. Does this matchup carry extra weight for you?
I don't think it carries any extra weight. But you've heard me speak before about my roots in Big Ten country. Being born here in Illinois, vividly remember watching the Cats beat Notre Dame. Vividly remember the following year. Being at Camp Randall when the Cats beat Wisconsin, with that Dwayne Bates touchdown. And, I think it's, honestly, Matt, I think it's one of those things that, there's still some moments that I'm trying to be really intentional about, even pregame Maryland, pregame, having an opportunity to be a part of Big Ten football is something that is really special to me and my family. And I think this is just another one of those games, an opportunity to be the head coach at Northwestern, playing Big Ten football, coaching in Big Ten football. I mean, this is something I've been dreaming about since I was a little kid.
Coach, you mentioned the Wisconsin offense starting to find their groove. What specifically in their offense have you seen during your preparation so far?
Yeah, I think the quarterback play, continues to trend in the right direction for him. Came in against Alabama. That's a tough situation to be thrust into, but you can tell that he continues to play with more and more confidence. The O-line play is something that has certainly stood out and been impressive. The backs are running hard, running well. They're creating some explosive opportunities in the run game. And anytime you pair that with a passing attack that has the ability to be extremely explosive, it can be a really tough outfit to defend. And I mean, it shows. I mean, the production that they've shown on the offense side of the ball against Purdue and now, against a really, they went on the road against Rutgers, traditionally known for really stingy defense, well-coached team. Wisconsin will always have our attention. But these last 2 games, you can tell they're definitely a confident group and trending in the right direction.
Coach, do you have an update on Jack Olson?
As of right now, we do not expect Jack to play this week. It looked like it was going to be anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. We'll continue to monitor that, but do not expect Jack to play this week.
Coach, last week you talked about how you had studied the RPO a lot and need to get back in that defensive room and really work through it. What was that kind of lesson for you now being a head coach and not being in that defensive room, reminding yourself that, hey, this is what I did for all those years and I can be that valuable asset that can really help this team defensively and offensively win football games?
Yeah, it's just it's navigating in a different phase and learning through it. Calling the defense last year required a different level of time put into specifically just getting prepared to call a game, and it's just managing my time appropriately. But the thing that I appreciate about Tim, Zach, and Paul is our conversations are ongoing throughout the week, and it wasn't like I wasn't in that defensive room in the prep, leading into Indiana. I think all of us identified that, we got an issue here. We got to fix it. Let's put our heads together and let's go do that. And, those conversations are ongoing, throughout all three phases. I think the one thing that we understand is, as much as it was exciting to get back on track against Maryland, we need to continue to have a thirst for improvement and identify things before they become issues. That's something that our staff is hard at work at. And, it's been a fun early portion of the week, with an extra day of preparation of getting our eyes on Wisconsin and identifying what we're going to have to do to play winning football.
Coach, you talked about the Wisconsin passing offense, which especially these last two games has been excellent, but your side has done well to pressure the quarterback, especially on Friday night against Maryland. What do you need to do to get that trend continuing?
Yeah, it's going to sound redundant, but, we have to force ways to make sure that the quarterback is processing post-snap and he doesn't know where he's going with the football before it gets in his hands. And then we got to find ways to disrupt him. And the easy stat to look at is sacks, which are drive killers for an offense. We want that trend to continue, but it's also just pressures and making a quarterback uncomfortable. And it'll be absolutely critical. We did a good job Friday night of affecting Maryland's quarterback early, and we're gonna have to find ways to do that. On Saturday as well, just to not allow that offensive passing attack from Wisconsin to get into a rhythm.
Coach, it seems like Josh Fussell has seen an elevated role at corner since season opener. How have you seen him progress since really he arrived on campus to the point where he's able to see key snaps in the Big Ten?
Yeah, I think Josh is someone that we've been excited about ever since we had a chance to work with him in his first practice, last year. And he just continues to trend in the right direction. Very humble, very hardworking, hungry for coaching, wants to be pushed, wants to be coached hard. And I think you're starting to see a level of confidence really start to show up, through Josh's play. And that just comes with reps, but specifically reps in the arena. And as he's had an opportunity to gain even more and more reps in those game scenarios, I think Josh coming off the Indiana game, knew it wasn't his best performance. And, what a credit to his character and work ethic and humility of bouncing back, and thought Josh played really well against Maryland. And Josh Fussell is going to be one heck of a corner in the Big Ten for a long, long time.
Coach, what have you went back and looked at the game tape from last year in Camp Randall? What have you learned from that, just scheme-wise, about Wisconsin and how you guys attacked them that you'll look to take into this week?
Yeah, I think looking at the game flow against Wisconsin last year, there's a lot of things that show up. Against a team like this, they are certainly dangerous, whether they're up or behind. With their ability to tempo and throw the ball at the level that they've proven to be able to do. I got to be honest with you, regardless of what the score was last year, I was uptight until it was zeros on that clock, just the way that they operate. You're going to have to put four quarters together. But there is a level of advantage if you can find ways, to create a lead, in the first half, just from a standpoint of, what you're seeing out of Wisconsin these last 2 weeks is they get up in a football game, they remain incredibly balanced. And with that balance, it becomes really difficult to defend. So we're going to have to do a great job of limiting explosive plays, but also finding ways to keep these guys, behind schedule and behind the chains, to create some third and long situations where we're going to be able to get off the field and play complementary football, get the ball back to our offense.
How much does that have to do with the air raid system that Coach Longo runs, where if you get behind, that ball's going to be in the air most of the game, and that allows your pass rush and your secondary to kind of play to his strengths?
Yeah, no, he again, with the way that they're structured offensively, they have the ability to put up points in a hurry. There's no doubt about it. And they're never out of a game with their ability to tempo and explosive plays in the passing game. They do a good job with some of their motions and finding ways to check the sideline in critical situations and get in advantageous calls. But we're going to have to do a great job of tackling in space. We're going to have to do a great job of affecting the quarterback, and we're going to have to do an exceptional job of limiting explosive plays. They open up, I believe, is the first series of the game last year where they open up with an explosive play early on. It only led to a field goal. You add that one to the list. They're going to move the ball. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But we're going to have to make sure that we find ways to get off the field on third down. Create some takeaways, and if they do make it in the red zone, force them to kick field goals.
Do you have an injury update on Josh Thompson and also overall on the offensive line? You mentioned in the past that you were really encouraged by what you had seen from the running game early in the season. It's been more of a struggle over the last few games. How do you feel you're going to be able to restore that push and eliminate some of the penalties up front?
Yeah, we're going to have to reestablish that run game. Have to, eliminate self-inflicted wounds. You go back and look at, Coach Lujan shared this with our offense this morning. If you go back and look at our percentage of scoring points in drives where we do not have procedural penalties, it's what you're looking for. Those chances for scoring points in a drive when we do have procedural penalties gets cut in half. That's something that we have to eradicate from what's going on. There was too many on Friday night. And in terms of the run game, there's some good things showing up, but there's certainly room for continued improvement there. We do anticipate Josh playing this week, but we need to continue to find a level of continuity with that group up front. What I am confident in is that group is really straining, really pushing. They're practicing really hard. They're buying into the coaching. There continues to be signs of improvement, not only collectively but individually. Excited that a guy like Nick Herzog, is back and practicing. There's some young guys coming on, but definitely need guys like Josh Thompson, Ben Rather, and Caleb Tiernan to continue to really set a tone as veteran leaders in that room of what it needs to look like to win in the Big Ten.
Nick Herzog there, will he be contributing or starting at left guard?
No, but we anticipate Nick to contribute. Nick coming off of being a little dinged up and his availability being in question. It appears that Nick is back to health and feeling himself, and excited for him to get back in the mode where he's really competing for more playing time than he's had these last few weeks.
So I'm just a little confused. So you're saying he might rotate in, or you're saying just there's more competition at the position going forward?
There's just more competition, at the position going forward. Specifically with those internal linemen, with Jack going down and moving some pieces around, Nick being his availability being limited. Excited for there to continue to be some competition and depth created in those specifically center and left guard.
Coach, Joseph Hyman has been a real bright spot in the return game. How does, when he gets those big returns, how does that set the tone for the offense, and how have you seen him emerge in that role this season?
It's been critical. I think there's a level of momentum that gets created. We all know how important the field position battle can be. But there's just a level of energy that comes off the sideline when the offense is, opening up a drive at the 40-yard line or 50-yard line or whatever it may be. And again, there's a level of confidence right now when Joe has the ball in his hands and people are blocking for him. They know and understand that, good things. They're anticipating good things happening when Joe gets the ball in his hands. But really excited about his growth in that area. We knew we had some special things with Joe on the offense side of the ball, but to see that carry over into the special teams game has been really fun to watch.
Coach, you mentioned Josh's trend to play. Both he and Caleb Tiernan are ranked within top 10 by PFF within their respective positions. What can you say about their work in the trenches and what that's meant to the team?
No, it's been huge. I mean, we knew going into spring ball and transitioning over to fall and into the season that those two guys were guys that we were going to have to absolutely lean on. And we don't put much stock in PFF grades. It's an incredible tool for us in breakdown and having access to film. But what I will say is those two have really bought into Coach O'Boyle. Really excited about the way that Josh has moved these last couple weeks. If you were out at practice these last couple weeks, I mean, Josh is really starting to take an ownership role and setting the tone and run game. Caleb's done a nice job, as a left tackle of consistently protecting our quarterback. That needs to continue to trend in that direction. But, Caleb Tiernan's walking around this facility with a lot of confidence right now. The transformation and maturity and growth that I've seen out of Caleb here in the last year has been really, really exciting. That young man has a bright future ahead of him, as does Josh. And I think the challenge to both of those guys moving forward is, now that you really built some credibility and some confidence, continuing to permeate that confidence throughout that entire room.
Coach, Jack Lausch has had 2 consecutive weeks with no turnovers. Can you talk about his development in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, just a lot of confidence, decisive decision making. I think you can see when a quarterback is playing confident, he's not waiting for wide receivers to become open. He's throwing the ball to a spot and knowing where his wide receivers are going to be. Really proud of the way that he's developed. And then when things aren't there, he's making decisive decisions to pull the ball down and take off with his feet. We don't want Jack carrying the ball. He's not a glorified running back. He's a quarterback. He's playing like a quarterback right now, which is really exciting. But we all know those 3rd and 6 situations that all of a sudden a quarterback, things break down, he's able to pick up a first down, how frustrating that can be for a defense. Proud of his decision making, proud of his practice habits and how that's led into production on game day.
Coach, over the last 2 weeks, it feels like there's been a particular point of emphasis to get Bryce and AJ the ball. How important is it to continue doing that this weekend? Yeah, it's critical. I mean, Bryce and AJ are proven playmakers in the arena. There's more playmakers within this offense than just those 2 guys. I've seen great things out of C.J. Johnson and Frank Covey in practice. Thomas Gordon, Marshall Lang, Duke Olgus as tight ends, utilizing the backs in passing game. But there's no doubt that, finding ways to get AJ and Bryce, the ball in their hands in critical situations and down the field is something that we need to continue to do. It's shown up and needs to continue to show up. And if teams are going to find ways to try and take those guys away, then, other guys will step up too. But I think Jack has done a really good job of not forcing those things, but also having a very clear understanding where those guys are lined up and finding ways to get them the ball.
Yeah, Coach, continuing the offensive questions, we've talked about how Wisconsin's quarterback might attack your defense, now turning to how your quarterback might attack theirs. They're a top 20 pass defense by yardage they've given up. So what are you looking for out of Jack and the rest of the offense to make sure that they can get the ball moving early?
Yeah, it all starts up front. It all starts at the line of scrimmage. Creating a new line of scrimmage and run game, doing a good job of protecting our quarterback and passing game. Sound decision making, out of Jack, not forcing anything, taking what the defense has given us that can be utilized in RPO, quick game, drop back pass. But it'll be critical that we establish a line of scrimmage early, which opens up opportunities for play action. And ton of credit to Wisconsin. I mean, they're playing at a really high level right now in all 3 phases.
Do you have an injury update on Devin Turner?
Right now he's day to day. We'll know more later in the week. Probably questionable right now.
Coach, Wisconsin's given up just 13 points in their past 2 games. I mean, what has stood out to you on tape about that defense?
Yeah, well coached, very fundamentally sound. I think they play at a high level up front. Veteran safety in the back end that does a great job of directing traffic. And high level corner play. And I mean, when you marry those things together, you got a good recipe for good defense. I'm really excited about the challenge that's in front of us in all 3 phases. But we're gonna have another great week of practice. The success that we saw on Friday, I think, is a direct reflection of the way that our guys attacked last week's practice. And we're gonna need that again. Starting tonight and transition into tomorrow, full padded practice. it takes what it takes in the Big Ten, and it's gonna require a great week of preparation.
And then, Coach, last week we talked about the turnover battle with Maryland. Obviously, huge win for you guys in that department. What do you think the team needs to do to continue that trend, both offensively and defensively?
It sounds so cliche, but it's really just trust in the process. Sometimes takeaways come in bunches, and you just those takeaways came from guys just doing things that they're coached to do. We need to continue to play with great fundamentals. Trust the things that we're being coached to do, and when opportunities present themselves, executing those opportunities. And then offensively, like I said, playing within the framework of the offense, trust in our progression, making sound decision making, value in the football by protecting it. The one fumble we had was on special teams against Maryland. We were fortunate to recover it, but it's just doing the little things right that we're coached to do, and it was really exciting to see those things show up on Friday night.
Coach, with Jack out again this week, would you consider doing anything to ease the burden on Luke, especially if he kicks off as much as he did Friday? Maybe have Helms or somebody kick off instead?
Yeah, Luke has been such a weapon with kickoffs and his ability to kick touchbacks. It's definitely discussions we're having though with the load that he's carrying. Got to be really thought out and strategic in terms of even the ways that we practice and making sure we're not putting too much on Luke. One thing that we've utilized, Hunter Renner is, quite a weapon with pin punt situations. I think that's a role that Hunter will continue to embrace. But to answer your question directly, we plan on still utilizing Luke to kick off. I mean, he's such a weapon. Not only the distance he puts on the ball, but the hang time that he can create for us. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for coming out, guys. It's been a kind of a tough 45 or so hours since the game. But as I said Saturday, I'll say it again, that was unacceptable. Our performance, my coaching, and really tried to look at everything possibly could all the way till about midnight last night, and then moved on to UCLA. So what basically the findings are is there's no one major thing. It's a bunch of little things. Details of execution, details of coaching. And when you have a lot of change like we have in the last 3 weeks, you really got to double down on the details to make sure that everybody's on the same page, everybody's doing things with the same precision. And we did not do a good job, and I did not do a good enough job of guaranteeing that happened. So you add it up, and that's what happened. Every game takes on a life of its own. We certainly had our opportunities all the way up to the very end of the first half. I mean, there's opportunity to make it a one-score game going into halftime, and just we're not able to do that. So we let the game get away from us, and Wisconsin did a great job. So I'll answer a question or two to clarify that, and then I'm going to move on to UCLA. So, guys, go ahead.
I guess just starting offensively, you mentioned the details and the execution. I guess what's your level of confidence that this can be corrected to the level that it needs to be going forward, starting with this UCLA game?
Yeah, we got a great group of players here. They're really steadfastly committed to what we're doing. Yesterday was a very humbling yet sobering experience together. We talked through it all as a team, as a staff, and we went out and had a good practice, and our guys will be ready to go, and we'll have a great week of practice. And homecoming it'll be a great opportunity to go out there and play in front of a great crowd, one that deserves better than we gave them. And that's our goal as a group, is to go and be 1-0 at the end of this UCLA season and get back on track. So, I'm very confident that we can do that, but there's a very good team on the other side. You can be fooled by their record. Don't be. When you look, they've played a very, very competitive schedule, a really, really tough schedule, and have played and been competitive in each of the games. So, again, games kind of take on a life of their own, but they've kind of seemed to find themselves as well. It's a new staff. They've kind of made some adjustments from the early season now and are playing well. So we'll have our hands full. We have certainly we're banged up. We've lost a couple more, and Get into that stuff on Saturday with the availability report, but it'll be a challenge.
You said UCLA has kind of found itself defensively. Rutgers played its best game in the second half against Nebraska, and then to see that kind of unwind last week, what was the biggest takeaway from you? I know you said execution and little details, but was there anything schematically or setbacks defensively that just didn't go your way? Anything big picture there?
No, there was very little that was done that we weren't, prepared for, knew was coming. We didn't coach them well enough, obviously, because they didn't execute the details the way we needed them executed. It wasn't like, oh, I haven't seen that, or that's a worry. There's things that we've defended before, and even within the game, defended it one time and didn't defend it the next, which is probably the most frustrating thing. Sometimes it's different people doing it or not doing it. But no, I think we'll get back on track. We will.
Did any of the the two guys that didn't play, Tyree and Robert, and the four guys that left, Aaron, Sam, Kenny, and Flip, are any of those guys out for the season?
We're evaluating everything right now with medical, and we're not in a great spot with our health right now, but that doesn't matter. We need to make sure that whoever takes the field, the 11 guys who take the field at a time, are prepared and ready to play their very best. If they do that, that's all you can do. We didn't do that Saturday. And again, I'll squarely take that on my shoulder. It's my job to get them to be in a position to do the very best they can. Now, if that's not good enough for the team we're playing, that's life, right? But when you don't do that, you don't give yourself a chance, that's not acceptable.
Just to be clear, sorry. You don't know if any of those six guys are out for the year?
I'm going to get into all that on the availability report on Saturday.
There were obviously some drops the other day and at times this season. I guess how concerning has that been, and how just frustrating has that been as it kind of stalls out the offense at times at inopportune?
Yeah, it definitely stalls out the offense, right? There's a saying in football on defense, when you have a stop on third down, you don't have to live to see everything that happens. And on offense, when you get stopped on third down, you don't get to live out everything that happens. And we did some of those that would have been easy, clear first downs, and didn't execute, didn't make the play. Again, why? Some of it, if a ball's slightly off or a receiver doesn't, is that coaching? Some of it is, yeah. Some of it is we have to get them more comfortable, protection-wise. Everybody, it all fits together. Protection fits with quarterback, fits with running backs, fits with coverage, fits with receivers, and we just need to do a better job coaching it.
During the bye week, Curt spoke about finding balance, and he liked the fact that there was some balance on the offense. Last couple of weeks, it's been a little bit more heavy in the past. Do you like where the balance is at right now, or do you think you need to get back to maybe some of what was working well in the beginning of the year?
Again, the game takes on a life of its own, so sometimes that balance gets thrown out of whack. When you go down 28-0, there's just not enough series left in the game to keep running the ball play after play. It drains the clock. So I think those numbers are a little misleading, but certainly the game dictates that a little bit. We need to be able to convert on third down, and that's how you keep giving opportunities to run the ball, to ham and egg it, play action, all those things. But again, when things go the way they did Saturday, you can take all the balance and all those equations and throw them out the window, because at the end of the day, you have to try to do whatever you can to win the game. Certainly what we did until we knew the game was out of reach, and then we tried to get out of there healthy as we could.
Coach, just on your run defense, last few weeks, run defense has had a hard time stopping opponents. Where do you see, as far as reviewing the tape, you can improve upon that? Obviously, certainly not just the big plays, but also just short yardage situations and try to get off the field quicker.
Yeah, I think it's mostly technique-oriented. I wouldn't even say it's assignment. There was a couple assignment errors, but I would say technique. Again, every time you say there's a technique issue, there is a guy on the other side that's trying to do an opposite technique. So I don't ever want to take credit away from our opponent because they did a heck of a job. But we didn't do well technically as we have in the past and as we're capable of doing. That's why I bring it back to us, to the coaches, to me. We got to get them to do what they're technically capable of doing.
Follow up on that, just granularly, you guys gave up 5 plays of 30-plus yards against Wisconsin, 17 on the season through 6 games. Why do you think that is occurring regularly?
Well, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think there's tech. I mean, if it's busts, that's a different thing. If you're busting, you're not doing the job, you don't know what job to do, that's a different story. It's not that, but it is details. It is execution of fundamentals that we have to coach better, and we have to make sure that we get them on game day. Do the players have to do it? Sure they do. You can't do it for them, but we have to do a better job of being detailed in our teaching, better teaching, hold them more accountable, all those things that is coaching. And when it doesn't happen, you can point to everybody else, but you better look in the mirror and say, this is what we got to do.
Core tenet in this program is staying in the moment, in the present, looking a little bit big picture. Is there a difference in managing that when things are going well, you win your first 4 games versus when they're not, losing your last 2?
Well, the beauty of our culture here, CHOP, is, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's down the middle, which most of life is down the middle, you got to stay focused and you got to stay on that spot and keep chopping away. And it's, I know people say, oh, well, that's corny. Well, it might be corny or whatever you think it is. To us, it's not. To us, it's a way of life, and that's what we need to do more than ever right now. And I'm very confident our players will do that. We have a great connection on this team. They're very, very disappointed in what happened. I asked many players, what do you think? And it is different answers. But at the end of the day, we know what we have to do, and we're going to make the corrections, and we're going to work hard this week to get all those corrections in place. And then we have a team that we're playing. Like, you look at them, they're very talented. Offensively, the quarterback, gunslinger. He can throw well on the run. He can throw from the pocket. They got a depth at running back. They got 3 returning starters on the O-line. They got a very big, long, athletic tight end, big receiving core. Defensively, they're huge. Up front, they're very stout. Linebackers, 49 and 20, are really, really active, really playmakers, playing behind a very big, strong D-line, which is going to be a huge challenge for us. And I think the secondary is gifted as well. So, like I said, I think they're finding their identity as a team, and they're playing really well. So it's going to be a huge challenge for us. So we have to get back to work. We need to get it fixed, and we have to be really detailed and play with great effort. Details and effort, 99% of the game. And we didn't do it well enough.
Coming off a loss like that, do you consider changes in playing time and snap counts, guys who play, and specifically at wide receiver with 5 drops, any changes in rotation? Right?
Everything. When you come off a game like that, if you don't look at everything, you're being foolish. So we look at everything. It doesn't mean you change just to change, though. That would be the biggest mistake that you could make, right? Sometimes you look at a play and you start saying, well, maybe we should do this or maybe we should do that. It's, whoa, timeout, guys. You're going to change what we do based on a mistake or a poor play of technique that someone did? No, there's a reason we do it that way. Don't change what we do. Get the young man to do it the way that we originally thought he is the right way, because that is the right way. And we just have to do it better. It's worked for a lot of years around here. It's worked in several different venues, different schools, different programs. You have to demand that. You have to teach it well enough, then you have to demand it. And that's where you got to be careful. You can't start, because when you start moving all the pieces, now it's out of control. We just have to, if there's a reason to make a change, we'll make it. And if not, we just have to play better, coach better, do everything better.
What was the response you saw from Ethan in the locker room on Saturday, but then also yesterday?
Yeah, Ethan's a competitor. He'll be back. I don't think he was very far off. I thought his decision-making was very good. Maybe a little accuracy issues, some, all that stuff kind of fits together, right? Protection, receiving, quarterback play. We're a little bit off there. We'll get that back in line and go out and have a good performance. That's the best performance we can have. That's what our goal is. Let's go out and play the best we can and see where the chips fall, and that's our goal. And then we'll get back to work this week. We'll get that done. So appreciate you guys coming out. Thank you.
Bye week wrapped up, and I think it did come at a good time for us. Kind of about that midway point. Played 6 games, and took a thorough look at really every play of those 6 games and analyzed a bunch of different ways. Looking for obviously some tendencies, where we got to improve on, some things we've done well that we got to be able to build off of. Thought the coaches and the players did a nice job of kind of doing that. Practice just on Wednesday last week, and then we did go last night, getting a little bit of a head start on Iowa, but I appreciated the approach of the guys through the week. And then there was some that just getting refreshed, a couple of days off, get their mind away from it. And so I was pleased kind of with how they approached the week. And now we're headed into a big-time challenge coming on Saturday, a program I got a bunch of respect for, the way they do things, the longevity of Coach Ferenc, talk about one of the best in the business. I think I read he just won his 200th game, which is just so impressive. I think it looks like an Iowa team that plays physical brand of football, running the thing, high-end defense, special teams is elite. They can beat you in the pass game offensively a little bit on what they've shown this first half of the season. So we got a big-time challenge coming from homecoming weekend. So excited about getting a bunch of alumni back for a night game Saturday night. Questions?
Jonathan, how much is this a different test than what you saw the last two games, Ohio State and Oregon? Oregon did run the ball effectively against you guys, but just schematically what they do in the setup.
Yeah, schematically, and they are committed to making it physical, running the ball. I think defensively, the scheme, the players, they give you a lot on that defensive side. So it's a different challenge, and they're playing really well. I mean, they had a nice win last week, handily. And you look at really their two setbacks this season are against two really good teams.
Jonathan, when you got your system in and your players at Oregon State, you ran the ball about as well as anybody in that conference. Do you have to run the ball better the next 2 weeks to win?
Yeah, we need to get improved in the run game. We want to do that, and that's why, again, going back this bye week, taking a look at some of the things that we got to do better. Because I think successful offenses, successful teams can run the ball and stop the run.
What did you find?
Well, I'm not going to give all our flaws or our strategies moving forward, but we did find some tendencies of where, the negative play in the backfield has to go away in our run game, and so we're trying to implement a couple of things to take that out of play.
Coach, it's your first homecoming right here. Coach, it's your first homecoming game as at Michigan State. You've been a part of homecomings before at Oregon State. Now that you've been here a couple weeks though on campus, what are your kind of expectations from campus, from the alumni going into kind of a big game around the school?
Well, I'd count on the atmosphere really throughout the weekend, but the day of the game to be festive. I think homecomings are special about college athletics. Multiple alums coming back and enjoying their time leading up to the game. So the tailgating, the atmosphere, the Spartan Walk, I'm counting on all of that being exciting with some energy.
I'm wondering about, with the proliferation of all these night games, what are the challenges and complexities that coaches and players face, and kind of what's your personal sentiment on, I think you're almost at a half dozen night games.
Yeah. Night games are what they are. We don't control the kickoff times, right? And so you got to approach it with knowing when the kickoff is. It's really about the back end of the game, right? So you kick off late, you finish late, and so the turnaround time, the recovery time, try to emphasize that, do a really nice job on Sunday. Makes a difference whether you're kicking at noon or kicking at 7:30 about the really the next day. We don't control it. You'd love to have a little bit of a mix, but we're going to line up and play anytime they let us.
Coach, you talked about it somewhat early on, but pros and cons of a bye week. What keeps you up at night? What makes you feel a little bit better? Can you educate us on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think sometimes the pros are, you've gone through a rough stretch to be able to take a deep breath, get a little bit of recovery. I mean, that can be a pro for a bye week. Some of the cons, if you're in a nice rhythm, sometimes you want to stay in that rhythm. And so there's two ways to see the bye. I do think for us, where we're at currently, this time of year, it came at a good time.
Jonathan, over here, going back to this, evaluating all 6 games as you went through them, I'm wondering what moments did you just like cringe and think, boy, if we just had that play? And then were there things you thought, oh, we're closer there than I thought, or this is going okay? What was sort of the overall evaluation of that?
Yeah, it's starting with the kind of when you cringe. Obviously, when we couldn't finish, we had multiple opportunities offensively through the first 6 games to finish some things, and we didn't do it, whether, getting stopped in the red zone, turning the thing over. That at the flip side of that, when you're cringing, we're that close. We just got to take the next step of being able to finish. I think there's opportunities. We look at us defensively, take the ball away a couple of times would have changed things, and so those things kind of individually stood out to me on the 6 games.
Jonathan, on the whole of those 6 games, you guys' run defense, I think, has been pretty good. When you went back and looked at it, what stood out to you in that regard? And looking toward Iowa, just how important is it going to be to get back to that? And then what are the things that they do well on the ground to get that?
Yeah. It does start with stopping the run, and we've had some success. 6 games, you throw it all together, playing some run defense. I think it does help the tackles for loss, right, statistically, when you get some of those numbers. And we're going to have to play a team defense against this run game. They've got to mix the scheme, so it's not just all one particular run play. They got a nice back that's not easy to tackle. So going back to the team defense, we get multiple guys to the ball to bring this guy down.
John, I was wondering about Michael Masunas. Looks like he's out for the year. Just how that had transpired and what the path is for him.
Yeah, we were trying to take the last couple of weeks to just see if he could kind of get to a place that he felt better about getting back out there. He just did not, over the last couple of weeks, get to that point, so made the decision to call it good for this season. And we're, tough blow, support him. Do feel like we got some depth in that room that's played the last couple of weeks, can carry the load.
And then, is there any of those guys that were long-term that are close, you think are going to get back, Alante or Dylan or, Chance?
I think the closest one would be Alante. We'll see. I'm hopeful he can get back by the end of the season. He's moving around a little bit, but getting cleared to play in the game, he's not quite there.
Man, kind of stole my question there. I was going to actually ask that as well, but I'm wondering from the offensive line standpoint, because that was obviously going into the bye week. You've been moving guys around. There have been some health issues there. How did you kind of work that in terms of what your assessment was of the current playing group and maybe making potential changes?
Overall assessment, we got to find some consistency. We hadn't played as consistent as a group of 5 out there that we've liked. We got to find a way to get more of that. These guys are working. Emphasize that a little bit on Wednesday, playing a lot of good on good, to be honest with you, and that was a lot for the line of scrimmage. One, for ourselves to continue to find that consistency, O-line, but really every position, and then looking to what we anticipate this game being so physical, we wanted to kind of replicate that in practice.
You feel like, where do you have, in terms of numbers right now, you've been pretty stacked at 5, maybe 6, you feel like it can handle it?
Not totally. I mean, again, 5 and 6, we've got multiple reps with guys. We want those guys to continue to get more consistent.
When we saw Kirk Ferentz in Indy stop me and said, hey, you got the right coach. Do you know him or just know about him? And what do you think of when you hear Iowa football?
Yeah, well, don't know Curt well, traded some texts and things, awesome kind of career he's put together. Just got respect for a guy to be in this business long term, and just the stories you hear former players talk about him, not just about wins and losses and his approach. I just got the utmost respect for him.
Coach, Iowa's defense has been their strong suit over the years. Does facing defenses like Ohio State and Oregon not just help you prepare for Iowa's, but stronger defenses around college football?
Yeah, I think it does. When you play, high-end talent, but scheme, and these guys do a really good job schematically. They got good players from the front to the back end of the thing. They take some pride in their style. They make you earn it, right? They're not just blitzing every snap. They've been opportunistic in regards to taking the ball away, and that just plays right into their hand, the style of program with the run game and special teams.
Coach, in terms of penalties, what steps are we taking to reduce them for the next 2 weeks? Especially, we are on track for, a bowl game. What are we doing there to help reduce those?
Yeah, you try to. You want these guys playing full speed to the whistle, not after it, right? And then you definitely want to eliminate the self-inflicted before the snap, right? Some stuff that we entirely control. And, say what 3 wins for us this year, our penalty in was sky high. Well, we got the penalty things a lot better, and we're 0 for 3 the last 3 weeks, so I'm not certain the penalty sides. We're not trying to go 0 penalties. That's not the goal, but we want to definitely be smart and play with awareness.
Jonathan, just to clarify, is Wednesday the only day you guys practice?
Last week, yeah. And then yesterday.
Is that typical for you, or did you feel like they needed some extra time, I guess, or is that sort of how you?
It kind of where it plays. Typical depends on when your bye is, and with us going 6 straight weeks, especially the quick turnaround Ohio State to the travel of Friday night in Oregon, it felt like the recovery was really important. That's why we went just once.
Gotcha. And just for you, I mean, as a head coach, do you get away from it at all? How do you unplug, if at all? What's that look like?
Yeah, a little bit. Got a little bit extra family time, but really on Saturday. Of course, found myself watching a little football, but got a little time there. I think that's important for really the entire building, players, the coaches, to find some time to, get away from it. And I think most coaches did get a little family time on Saturday.
I guess you talked about some of the negatives, but what are the biggest maybe positives you saw to that 6-game evaluation, things you really think you can build on to improve for the second half of the schedule?
Yeah, got a lot of snaps playing team defense. I think the effort and the how factor they've been playing with for 6 weeks, and we can sustain that. That's something to build off. I look at us offensively. We've had plenty of times capable of moving the ball for longer drives, not just like 2-play hits or something. We just got to take a step in finishing. I think on special teams, I think we're kicking the ball pretty well. You look at statistically how we're punting, kickoffs, and obviously Jonathan Kim has been lights out. So those things have been really good.
I'm wondering about the penalty question. Kind of makes me look at Iowa. They don't get penalized very much, and when you play against a team that doesn't get penalized very much, do you have to plan differently, or do you prepare for that? Or
well, you just they make you earn it, right? They're not going to just give you freebies here and there, and so they're playing with great technique. Their hands are thinking about offensively, hands inside. This is a good old line, well coached. That don't hurt themselves. Flip it on the other side defensively. Got a bunch of them just giving you free 5 yards or 15 yards here, and so they just make you earn it.
You said you watched a little football Saturday. I assume you might have caught a little of Ohio State at Oregon, having just played those two teams. What was your take on that? Kind of an instant classic.
Yeah, I did see that one, not start to finish, but a lot of it. Just impressive, two teams playing at a high level, going back and forth. Both those teams responding, talent on the field, schematics. It was a good college football game.
To answer the first question, I'm not sure if Hudson will be available or not. Ryan Braun will start the game on Friday. I think just the way he played, it would be unfair not to. We'll see about Hudson's availability moving forward.
And just kind of take us back. At what point last week did you decide, hey, I'm going to call this offense? And ultimately, why did you make that decision?
I think it was like Thursday morning at 2:30 in the morning. The week of the Wisconsin game, I spent learning the vocab, learning the rules within the offense. I didn't feel comfortable calling it that game just because I wouldn't be able to spit out plays fast enough. I got to midweek last week and felt like I had the vocab down enough to know what play I wanted to get to. And so I just felt like me calling the game was going to give us the best opportunity to put points on the board. And so that's why I made the decision I made.
And you're going to continue to call the offense?
Yes.
Okay. And just talk about Jason Simmons' role now.
He's organizing. He's been awesome for me. Just bouncing. The whole offensive staff has done a great job of being creative and bouncing ideas off of each other. And then he'll put the script together for practice. Upstairs he gave me a lot of good insight on game day. And so that's kind of how we're operating right now.
Could you have even envisioned Ryan Braun playing like he did, especially in the second half?
He had a great week of practice. Really the last 2 weeks he's practiced well. You always appreciate like his energy and enthusiasm as a competitor, and he spent a lot of time in preparation this past week. So the things we saw during the game is what we were seeing during practice. Obviously, you don't know what it's going to look like until you get in live situations. Really, the first half, I thought he played well as well. Just we weren't making plays or drives weren't getting extended. We had a holding call on an explosive run that would have got us in the red area. Had a drop ball on the fade that I thought was thrown beautifully. So, you take those two plays and maybe you get points on those two drives. And now you look at his game and he had a fantastic game. So I'm proud of the way he played, and it's because of the way he prepared. And, I'm looking forward to watching his growth and maturation this week.
How would you compare calling an offense to calling a defense? Is it a different rhythm, different?
It's way different, way different. It was fun. Like, I enjoy feeling like you have an impact on the game. It was good to see the guys have fun with some of the new wrinkles that we threw in, and obviously you're there in the thick of it, right down on the wire, and you got the ball in your hands. Like that's what you want in a tight ball game against a good opponent. So, obviously disappointed that we lost. Would have loved to win that game for our guys. But yeah, it was definitely a different experience.
You're saying like intellectually it's different, like from a football standpoint?
Well, yeah, like on defense you're sort of reacting and anticipating, and offense like you kind of know what the play is before the defense does, and there's sort of a chess game, and you try to present pictures and run plays that set up other plays. So it is a different chess match there.
When Jason was in here, he said there's plans for maybe playing Hudson and Ryan together at some point, or you will have plans for both of them to play. How distinct are those? A plan for each of them right now? Can they execute one game plan? Do you have to have different wrinkles for them?
Well, I told both of them, like, this is the way we're going to play moving forward, and so they both got to be able to execute that style of play, and I think they both can and are athletic enough to do so. So yeah, I'm excited about what that'll look like.
What would it mean for this defense to play with a lead, especially early in a game right now?
I think it would, what would it mean? I don't know. We try to preach not looking at the scoreboard and not letting momentum swings sort of affect the way you play. And so I would hope it wouldn't mean anything, right? If we can only play with a lead, that would not be good. And so, we got to try to hold people as less as points as possible, and we got to try to score more than our opponent on offense.
I guess the other way to ask that, though, is like, because for the most part you have played from behind for not just the season, but even going back to last season. Mm-hmm. So how bad does this team, I guess, need to have to see some of the success that you're having on offense in the first half actually reach fruition instead of kind of having some stumble along the way?
Yeah, I think collectively as a team it would do well just in terms of our morale if we were leading in the game. I could say that.
Did you have any communication with the Big Ten about the fumble that Altmaier did or didn't have in that last drive for them?
No, I'm still waiting on some feedback.
Did you get a sense of the guys kind of rallying around Ryan leading up to Saturday?
Obviously, your quarterback gets hurt, and your backup is thrust into the starting role. The team is going to get behind whoever that individual is. I do think Ryan. He exudes confidence and is vocal, and I think, and he's a tough kid. Like he likes to go play, and I do think the guys fed off of that energy a little bit, especially there, that mid to late third quarter, fourth quarter. It was fun to watch. So, I think they were excited about the way he played, and ultimately, if he played well, that means the guys around him played well as well. So, offensively, they did a good job, especially in that second half.
How much has he grown in terms of just understanding the position from last year when he played against Northwestern to Saturday?
Well, Saturday he didn't make some of the bonehead mistakes he made in the Northwestern game, but I also wasn't, his position coach a year ago, and I didn't sit in the QB room and go through meetings. So this is my first glimpse of, what he is as a as a quarterback in terms of studying and preparing. And like I said, the last 2 weeks I've been impressed with both he and Hudson and the amount of time and the amount of detail that they spend in meetings and translating that to practice.
What did you learn in terms of your team's ability and willingness to fight on Saturday?
We had talked all week about like no matter what happens, like you got to go out there and fight for 4 quarters. Like that can't be, I'm watching ESPN on, what was that, Friday of the, before we played at dinner and the commentator was going through the games of the week and got to our game and said, this will be an easy win for Illinois as, Purdue has quit on the season. And so like that bothered me real bad. Not that we got picked to lose the game, but just that, the perception out there is that we've quit on the season. So had a discussion with our team in our team meeting that night, had a different sort of speech / meeting prepared, but just, talk to them about it. I don't care, what you're doing in life. I don't care where you're at, what your occupation is. Like as a man, like don't ever let the perception be that you quit, when things got tough, or that you quit when adversity hits, because in life, as in football, like adversity is guaranteed, and so at the bare minimum, it should be that you fight. You know what I mean? And so it was also the message at halftime. Because here in the recent history, when we've been down like that at half, it has snowballed. And so at halftime, I'm like, hey, we talked about this last night. Like at the bare minimum, you need to go out there and fight. And so they did. And my belief is that the team's willingness or ability to fight when things aren't going their way won't be in question. Because if it is, then I'm gonna have a real problem.
How does a short week work now, especially coming off a pretty emotional game and especially preparing for a pretty formidable opponent here in Oregon?
Yeah, it means a lot of time not spent in the bedroom. You just got to prepare a little bit faster. We'll practice tonight and Tuesday night and Wednesday night and Thursday night, which is actually a good thing because we play Friday night, right? So we haven't been under the lights yet. So you just speeds up your process and a little bit more hours on the front end of the week studying and game planning.
What jumps off the tape at you about Oregon?
Man, they are talented, very, very talented. Big, physical, fast. They got at every position they got playmakers. They shoot. They're the number 2 team in the country right now, and for a reason, right? They just beat Ohio State at home in a close competitive ball game. I know Dan Lanning. He's a great coach. He does things the right way, and his guys are always competitive and tough and physical. So it'd be a great match.
Coach, what qualities do Ryan and Hudson possess that make them essential leaders?
What quality? They are, first and foremost, like they have belief in themselves. I think, as a leader, if you don't believe in yourself, it's hard to get people to follow, right? And